Today's Friday, but we dropped it yesterday. Sorry. It's 12 o'clock midnight here in Melbourne, so I'm getting my head together. And we discussed movies which were ranked from 15 to 25. And today we're going to discuss the other 10 movies from 6 to 14. So this is pretty exciting, and I've got a very exciting panel. So just for reference, we invited 12 podcasters from all across the globe and critics to vote and rank on their 25 best movies. And then based on individual rankings, we gave a weighted average score to every single movie that was ranked in the list. And then based on the final weighted average score, we will consensus to inform the finalists. So this episode, we're going to talk about the final list. So we've got individual rankings from each podcaster and critic as well, which we will release once all the episodes are done. One caveat, dear listeners and dear viewers, it is possible a movie that you love is not on the list. It is possible that a movie that you hate is on the list, but that's the whole point of lists. It can never be please everybody, because that's not the point of art itself. So it's to discuss, debate, and disagree on. But if there are movies that you like, please send us your comments. And if you think there are movies that we have overlooked, please let us know as well. But we are not responsible to validate your taste. Sorry. So just bring it out there. So don't send me hate mail if one of your movies, if Sayyar or Animal doesn't make it, I can't help you, but I'm just putting it out there. Okay, so just saying that. So the period we're covering is from 2000 to 2025 in all Indian languages. Now, to kick off, I have a banger of a panel today. I mean, this is really pretty impressive. So I will go and request each of the panelists to introduce themselves. If that's okay, I'll start with you, Amrita, and welcome back. We did an episode on Goldie Anand, and I have to say, so many of my uncle aunties loved me for that. So thank you for for doing that. So
That is
I got many
definitely
messages from them, so
yeah,
I was heartened. Yeah.
that is definitely the segment that I go for, the uncle auntie. Thanks for having me back on. I know that we went through quite a bit of scheduling for the last one and for this one, so I wasn't sure if you'd actually invite me back. So I'm very happy that you did. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, so my name is Amrita. I co-host a podcast called Khandann, a Bollywood podcast. We've been doing this for a while now. And I co-host it with my best friends, Asim and Sujoy. And we started out as a podcast talking about the three Khans of Bollywood and their movies because we were 90s kids and we just wanted to talk about the movies that we saw when we were growing up. And it's evolved over the years. It's a sort of like open conversation between our listeners and ourselves. So it's gotten to be a podcast about Indian film and about just the state of culture and art generally. So that's what Khandann's about.
Awesome. And it's a great podcast. I would recommend listening to it. I listened to it, and to me, it's not just coverage of movies, but it's got a great sense of humor in it. The kind of humor that, I think all of us here agree, and we all kind of irreverent in our own ways, and yeah, you need to be able to laugh to appreciate life. So good stuff. I mean, I can't endorse Khandan podcast enough. I'll move on to Beth, who's also a recurring guest on this podcast. And I will let Beth reintroduce herself because our listeners are familiar with you, Beth, by now.
Yeah, I think our last one was Saroj Khan
Saroj
numbers
Khan,
that I
the
was
best
here
songs from
for.
choreographed by Saroj Khan.
But then you
Yes,
also kindly had me talk about Feroz Khan
Saroj
movies, which
Khan.
again, aiming for the
We are
auntie
doing our
uncle.
own Khandan podcast here.
Right. I too am an auntie uncle specialist. So I am currently co-hosting a podcast with another frequent guest, Padu Sultan, called the Filmi Ladies, and we do again mostly Hindi films, but more a few Indian films of other stripes here and there. And you guys, she's making me watch Kiladi movies for our next episodes, some of which I have
It's
seen, but some of which I have not. So it's a journey.
I messaged Pitu last night and I told her, you need Jigra to watch Sabse Bada Khiladi again. Like you really need a heart, a big one, which I don't have. So
This was
good
my
on
first
you.
time, and I did survive, so it's okay.
Okay, that's good. And now we've got two podcasters who are the first time podcasters on this guest. I'm really, really excited to have them. And I will introduce Dhruv if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I think we connected. I don't even know how we connected actually. I think it's probably because of one of the podcasts which
One of the
you
podcasts
had,
we either of us were doing.
one
Yeah.
of us was on, and then you had messaged. But yes, thank you so much for the invite. I am an occasional, I would say, part-time film critic, full-time co-host, podcast co-host. Our podcast is Queen is Dead film podcast, which is about we try and be about everything we like, but I think that's consistently gone downhill, and that's become essentially a bitching session about whatever the movie world has become now. And no, occasionally we will talk about films we really like, but yeah, we cover um, international cinema as much as we cover Hollywood and Bollywood, but the heart is always with Bollywood, even though I'm currently very much in a social distancing, you can say, or breakup phase with Bollywood, because there's a lot of hurt that has been handed over since the past, I don't know, 2, 3 years. So yeah, it's very much that. But yeah, I'm glad to be here, and yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I'm really excited because as when Amrita did my podcast for the first time, I told her when I subscribed to the Khandann podcast because there was something funny that that I hear. And similarly, before we start recording, I was telling Dhruv and Cris, who co-host Queen is Dead podcast. They were talking about Tom Cruise, and they said something funny. It's like Tom Cruise is the same age as Modi ji, and Tom Cruise is doing all these things. And I was originally hit the subscribe button. This is the content I'm here for. So I'm the target audience for this kind of material. Cris, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi, I'm Cris. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a co-host of Queen is Dead, and along with that, I'm also aspiring, I would say myself, film academic, though I do work on it pretty extensively. Similar to what you've said, our heart is absolutely with Bollywood, and you can say that for me more than Dhruv, because I keep watching whatever garbage that Bollywood puts out every week to this day, and I have refused to social distance, even though for my personal mental health it should be something I should do, but I can't. So I keep
You're
myself
young.
engaged
You'll get there.
as much as I can, though I also have my own boundaries. Like, I didn't watch Baghi 4 because that's not something I'm capable of, but rest I'm still trying. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Vic.
Well, look, somewhat thanks. No, I'm glad you're here. And Cris, thank you for, taking the baton of all of us who've checked out of Bollywood. We need someone to keep the lights
No,
on.
I'm the one who's responsible for taking one for the team. So the ritual is now that I'll watch it and then I'll narrate all the wacky stuff that I'm watching to the Queen is Dead guys and to the people who listen to our podcast at large, so that they don't have to suffer.
That's true. Amrita, I think you do something similar as well, right?
I mean, we do it on two
To an
levels.
extent.
Like, yeah, one is so Asim is like a huge Salman Khan fan, for example, and he's done some really terrible things to me. Like, I once landed in London on the day of my birthday, and Beth was there as well. And I landed in London at like 12 noon, and by 4 p.m. I was sitting in a theater watching like I can't remember the name of that film, but I call it like Kabhi Sautan Kabhi Saheli because it's that
किसी का भाई किसी की जान.
right. That's the one. And I refuse to learn the name of that film. I keep calling it, Kabhi Sautan Kabhi Saheli because I feel like that's more apt. And yeah, and Beth was there as well. And I remember like all of us were having like an out of body experience. So we do that. We do a bit of like, like, okay, fine, this is probably going to be crap, but we have some sort of nostalgic connection, therefore we're going to go watch it. Or else, if you're a part of our Patreon, then you can actually, like, if you belong to a certain tier, you can actually ask us to watch stuff and we'll watch it even if we don't want to. And we're like, well, this is the level of sellout that we can live with. So that's what we do.
Well, they did an in-depth analysis of Veer Gati, Salman Khan classic Veer Gati, And I was listening to it. I was like, my God, you need a special kind of skill set to rewatch Veer Gati and then discuss it at length for like an hour.
I
You know,
think,
that's
yeah, I think
yeah.
Amrita's convinced me that we should never do a Patreon if we ever will, because I know what suggestions are coming and I am not
Exactly.
watching that. So,
Or
yeah,
it's just me doing it, or
you,
me and our one of our
yeah,
co-hosts Samarthya, who does all the raging on our podcast. The two of us just doing full Kali
probably,
Galoch or cursing for
yeah, yeah.
2-3
I'll
hours.
I'll edit. That's about it. Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
All right,
yeah.
so we'll get kicked off. So, before we jump into today's list, I just want to do a recap of the 15 to 25 and get your thoughts on it. Just quickly, just so that because I'm curious to know what you all thought of the overall ranking. So, I'll start from 25. We gave an honorary mention to Job We Met because it almost made it, but it didn't hit the 25 best 25 mark in terms of overall ranking. So at number 25 we had the Marathi movie Sairat. 24 we had Payal Kapadia's A Night of Knowing Nothing. At 23 we had Swades. 22 we had Punyan Sullivan Part 2. 21 we had Bajrangi Baijan. 20 we had Kal Ho Na Ho. 19 we had Punjan Selvan 1. 18 we had Lagan. Number 17 we had Kandukanan because it appeared on so many lists. I had to change the rule to include it. I had excluded 2000 previously, but then I had to include it because it appeared on so many lists. At number 16, Gully Boy, and at number 15, we had Chak De India. So I just want to quickly get your thoughts on this overall list. Amrita, I'll start with you.
Are you sure? Because
Yes.
I have nothing kind to say about this list.
Oh, that's why we need to know. Yes.
I think it's a great piece of nonsense that you would put like Bajrangi Bhaijaan below Gully Boy. Like that is just that's nonsense of
Oh,
another
the
level.
knives are out already.
Um, because Bajrangi Bhaijaan is like the most Bollywood movie that you have on that list, and whatever my feelings might be about Salman Khan, it is perhaps the last of the great like Bollywood films that have come out. Honestly, um, I'm probably getting my timelines mixed, but I can't remember anything else that I liked. Um, but I think I do enjoy the fact that Kandu Konnai made it to this list because it is a gorgeous piece of cinema and I love it. And I'm just being like very selfish and being like, yes, of course. Even though, like it's a very early Gotham Menon film. And it kind of like shows that, like you can tell that, he was just sort of figuring out his craft and
Oh, you
stuff when he
Rajiv
was
Menon, you mean? Yeah, yeah, Rajiv
Raji
Menon.
Menon, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And but it is possibly my favorite Aishwarya Rai performance, which gets a lot
Agreed.
of people very upset because they're just like, "What about Devdas?" And I will tell you what about Devdas.
We will all have thoughts on Devdas, yes.
But yeah, I think also there's a lot of recency bias I feel in that list because the fact that both the Puni and Selvins made it. Again, like I really enjoyed watching Puni and Selvin when I watched the two movies in the theater, and I watched both of them in the theater. And for a while there, I was perhaps a lone voice in the wild defending both of those movies. But do I think they both belong in the top 25 movies, like best 25 movies ever made in the last 25 years of Indian cinema? No, I don't. And I definitely don't think that they rank above Sairat. Like, no, I don't agree with that ranking at all.
Okay, fair. No, that's absolutely fair. I will say Bajrangi Bhaijaan did get a lot of eye rolls in the other episode we thought because for me it's I've never been more emotionally manipulated by a movie director than I did with Kabir Khan and Bajrangi Bhaijaan. It was like कि अभी रुलाओ अभी रो तुम because रोना ही है तुम्हें ये बच्ची का सोचो. So I appreciate I appreciate we'll never get a movie like that again because the times are so different now that that movie has a certain nostalgia and a certain sincerity and earnestness that perhaps is lost. But yeah, but we have to disagree on that. And Punyan Selvan will
No, I
just have
don't.
to.
Not to belabor the point, but I feel like that's not like what you're saying is absolutely correct, and that is why it deserves to be higher up. because Bollywood has a definite syntax to the movies that it makes, and Bajrangi Bhaijaan like nails that syntax. Like there's nothing subtle about Bollywood filmmaking, and I think perhaps that's also one of the reasons why this list is so, um, like it's sort of veering from like one end to the other, because I think like a lot of us were sort of confused as to whether we should be talking about Bollywood films, or we're talking about Indian films, or are we talking about like mainstream films, like because there's so many little subtle differences between all of these things, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. It's a very subjective list. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what lists are always subjective. There'll never be a list that
I
will
mean,
make
Vic, have you
everyone
not
happy.
seen Tube Light? Because when you see that, emotional manipulation falling flat on its face for 2.5 hours, that's Tube Light. I think more than Bajrangi Bhaijaan, because Tube Light is a disaster. I think
Yes.
I haven't
more
seen
or
Tube
less.
Light, so I've saved
Yeah,
myself.
it's
Yeah.
You are to
yeah,
be congratulated.
yeah, yeah. So
Beth, your thoughts on the list so far?
I mean, I've already forgotten half of what you said was on it because that was 4 minutes ago or whatever. But yeah, my head is spinning, and I'm also re-looking at my own list, and I'm like, what insane things did I say? I should make this list, but
Hey, Kandukaran was on your list,
it
so
was,
you know.
it was. So that was
Yes.
a fun kind of surprise to see that so many others felt the same. I think what this is highlighting for me is that each of us probably, but certainly I'm in an echo chamber, right? And so some of these shocked me, but I'm like, I thought everyone hated that. Or when Amrita just said she was a lone defender of PS, I was like, wait, what? I thought
Yeah, I think we
everyone
all
I knew
loved
was
it.
raving about it. So like, again, we're each in our own little, and I just think there's a lot of chatter that is not reaching me somehow. And is it because I've gone my hands over my ears going la 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 la, but because I don't want to hear any more about Animal or whatever. But yeah, this is all just going to be a wild surprise.
Yeah. But Amrita, to your credit, I think you were the only one from the 12 who ranked Bajrangi Bhaijaan so high that the weighted average score got it into the list, you know? If so, yes, there you go. Dhruv, your thoughts on the list so far?
I think
Just
mainly
any overall comments.
yeah, just I'm surprised that Kalhona Ho is on at 20. Again, this is again the echo chamber thing maybe for
Yeah.
me, where I'm like, it's clearly a personal gateway to cinema for me. Actually, I remember that's the first film I remember crying in. So it's one of those things. So,
Yeah.
but I was like, I thought that it's the one which has aged quite well from that era, and I thought that it will be higher up the list. Is mainly my takeaway. But apart from that, I thought, like again, I think what Amrita said was true. Like there are so many ways in which the list is swinging between Indian cinema and indie cinema and Bollywood cinema. It's fascinating to see a Sairat there, and then because Sairat actually it's interesting because Sairat I think is the synthesis of two different forms of uh, you know Indian cinema in many ways, right? Because it's first half. All should I spoil it? Can I spoil it?
Yeah, you spoiled it.
Very
Yeah, we've
briefly.
discussed it. Yeah.
So it's very much like first half quintessential Bollywood, second half erosion of Bollywood, sort of like those things, right? So it's very interesting how a text like that is lower than like a lot of the other texts, but it's a fascinating list nonetheless. Like you get so much variety actually in filmmaking styles and diverse sort of takes on material that I think it's again I don't take lists seriously as such. Like I think it's fine that you'll get like wild variations here because it's just not going to be like if it's like samey. I think that's a problem. The
Yeah.
wildness is welcome, actually.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree, and that's
Yeah.
the whole point of this whole list
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that you debate it. Discourse is
Yeah.
the main thing because you can never and I have to admit I didn't watch Sairat the Marathi version. I watched the very curated Karan Johar version, and I was like, and then when I was told that this is what I was like, wow, this Karan Johar needs to
Yeah.
leave Bandra to if he's going to adapt
Or just
cinemas
not
better.
make these movies. I mean,
Or
again,
don't make
see,
these movies. Yeah.
I'm very much of the I like the people should stay in their lane thing, which is
Yeah.
a big thing. Where I'm like, sure, you can make your fluff. You are good at making fluff. So I'm
Correct.
happy
Yeah.
to watch his like the fluff he makes. I would say that's why like Gully Boy being there, I'm also like a little down on it just because Zoya Akhtar since I think since parts of Dil Dhadakne though has veered into this lecturing territory, which annoys the living hell out of me. So
Yeah.
I don't really click with that phase of hers. But anyways, it's again, I know that it's a huge film for a lot of people, and Alia Bhatt in that is incredible. So whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and even like to see A Night of Not Knowing Payal Kapadia's
Oh
movie
yeah, that's true.
was a complete surprise to me
Yeah.
because I didn't know about the movie. I love All We Imagine Is Light, but
Yeah.
it's such a powerful, potent piece of cinema. Chris,
Yeah.
your thoughts before we jump into our list for today?
Yeah, I'm also having quite the mixed reaction because the because films like Bajrangi Bhaijaan and Gali Boy and all wouldn't come anywhere near my sort of ranking. So that's why I'm also quite I think it's also not just about the echo chamber, but it's also the kind of cinema that you're exposed to, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm someone who often misses the big like I've not watched either of the Ponniyin Selvan films or I haven't even watched Kandu Kondai. So I'm definitely in a different space when it comes to the kind of films I watch, just because I sort of grew up watching whatever was in the theater every weekend. So I'm much more aware of Bollywood as it sort of evolves from the, I would say late 2000s up to now, than these kind of big films, even in other industries, minus say Malayalam cinema, which I follow. So yeah, definitely Kal Ho Na Ho being so low is quite astonishing to me, but I'm really happy that there's such a variety of sort of cinema, and it also becomes that thing of when you work in Bollywood, and I face this a lot in academia, it's you have to make this distinction between films you like and films that are good, that you have to sort of navigate in the sense that
Yeah.
you can really enjoy a film, but like from an academic or from like a film scholar perspective, it's not considered good, or you have to make like a proper argument that, oh, this is actually a good film, not just an entertaining film. So that debate, I think, is something that I know I had to reconcile with quite a bit when I was making my own list, because it would have been very different if it was films I liked versus films I think are good, because I am forced to make that distinction given where I am. But I'm glad that people have taken from so many different places to have A Night of Knowing Nothing with the more Bollywoody films and have from other industries. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, look, consensus is always going to be inconclusive, but that's the fun part of it. That's why I like doing it. All right, we'll jump into our list for today. So we are doing from 14 to 6. And at number 14, we've got, I would say, one of the most accomplished, in my personal view, because it's my kind of genre of movie, the most accomplished film directed, at least in the 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, which is Ram Gopal Varma's Company. Now, Company to me is terrific piece of cinema because it is beautifully edited. The screenplay is tight. It's like a thriller, but at the same time, it's a character study of these people. It's a good expose of the underworld, but it also gives you an insight into a certain point in time, which even impacted Bollywood in terms of how they were all connected. That there was a nexus where there was the police, there was these underground people, there were these actors, the funny, the underworld money funneling into Bollywood cinema, and Ajay Devgan, to me, this is his career's best performance. I mean, everyone recently who identifies Singham, and I'm like, for the love of God, Singham is I won't get into what Singham is, but Rohit Shetty's idea of like a superhero is Singham, but he doesn't get when Marvel superheroes, they're grappling with their power, not just thrusting their power. So he doesn't get any of that. But this movie, Ajay is just, there are moments where he's just staring and he's just so calm but there's anger, and that anger is just, gives you shivers. He's brilliant in this. I think Vivek Oberoi, when he's with a good director, he's a very, very good actor. But yes, he's not a good actor. He's not an actor who, left with his own tools, can give a good performance. But when he's working with a Mani or when he's working with a Shahad Ali, he gives good performances. And the women, like Manisha Koirala, like what an actress. It's just such a shame that we didn't give her the kind of recognition and adulation that she deserved for the talent and for the kind of choices she made as an actor. Today everyone raves about the choices Alia makes or all the other actresses made, but Manisha did it way back, and she's very good in this. And Antara Mali is also so good in it. So I'm a big fan, and I'm really glad this movie's on the list. I will start with you, Dhruv. Your thoughts on Company, because you said you recently watched it for the first time.
I I don't want to spoil the party, but anyways, I don't love it, and I think that there's very specific reasons for me not loving it. One of them is a pet peeve, in that sense that the background score in this film is too incessant for me to
Yeah.
have, to feel every beat of emotion, and there's lots of emotions in the film, and it's just there very very consistently, to I think the film's detriment. That said, there's lots of good stuff in it. I think for you, I think you were saying the filmmaking. I think the camera work in this is extraordinarily. It's like experimental almost at times. It's
Yeah.
using light and shadow like tremendously well. And then, of course, the things you're saying about the Bollywood and the underworld connection is there. There is one particular scene that irked me in a very very odd way, in which Ram Gopal Verma is doing a very school, like it's like school play, like bullying in a playground sort of thing. But I was like, do we really need to do did he really need to do that? Then also, it's when I think they're spoofing Karan Johar or
Yeah.
spoofing. I'm not even saying spoofing. It's like genuinely like the worst sort of stereotypical
Caricature.
display.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, anyways, like it's one of those things that's probably not aged also well. But no, I think I can totally understand why it's a favorite for so many people. I think there's fundamental filmmaking choices that sort of stop me from loving it. But Ram Gopal Verma, when he was somewhat sane, he was never sane, of course. He's like, the film is insane. This is also insane in its own sense. But when he was operating with some sense of semblance of anything, I think this is a good display of what all he can bring to something. And I think Ajay Devgan is the other thing Vic was talking about. I was like, I have ragged on the guy for the past 3 years or 4 years because he looks like he's sleepwalking through films, and I'm just like, you really, I'm like, just don't do this. Like, you are too good an actor to do this, And I've seen him do this, and I'm just like, I saw him in Company, and I was like, he's such a good actor. Like, he has such a great presence to him. There's like the intensity which you were talking about. He radiates it without like forcing it on people. And I think, again, I miss this version of it, which you will see. I'm guessing Omkara will be there somewhere in your list, because if it's not, then we will have words.
Oh yes.
But
Oh
but
yes. You
yeah,
can
yeah,
sue
but
me.
but he's, this reminds me a lot of what he will also do in Omkara, but like another sort of exploration of that sort of intensity. But yeah, terrific. Elements I very much like, but I don't like love the whole film. But that's okay.
I agree with you on the
Yeah,
background music. Yes, it sort of underlines every single emotion, but that's
yeah,
just Ram Gopal Verma's
yeah. I get
choice
it.
of directing. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
trivia, he and Karan Johar fought a lot
I
in the
know.
late 90s to early
I know.
2000s because I don't know what was going on, but they
I
had,
think it's
Amrita may have some insight, but they had a lot of they had a dirty bitch fight. So that's why that spoof was there in it.
yeah, yeah, got it. Yeah.
Chris, your thoughts on Company?
I too watched it for the first time actually for this list. So I am gonna begin with saying it's not for me. So whatever I say about it, like I think like both of you have pointed out, there's a lot to appreciate about it and lot that is very technically impressive. But it's just not my kind of film. It's just not the kind of film that interests me. So that is a kind of onboarding issue in the first place, that I'm not completely bought into it just because not what I go for. But yeah, I think Ajay Devgan's performance is amazing, especially given I have seen more of his recent output than most should in general, including one film where I got baited into watching it for Tabu, even though she's in the film for 5 minutes, called Auro Mein Kaha Dam Tha, the Neeraj Pandey film. But seeing how at what state he is now, where the effort is non-existent, seeing how incredibly restrained his performance is, yet how expressive it is really fascinating to see. I think again camera work is very interesting, and again my issue comes about, one, it's not for me. Second is, I think in general some of it's a little too shallow in a sense. Like, it's very sort of running through the rhythm than actually delving into anything in a lot of detail, which I would have preferred. Though I know Bollywood is a very like general medium in general, but so that's a bit where the investment became a problem for me. And the Neeraj Vora thing as well. I think my problem is, while I understand the spats between them, I feel like it borders on homophobia, which is a bit of an issue with me for that character and how he sort of mimics quote unquote Karan Johar, which is something that gives me the ick a little bit. So it's definitely a film I can understand why people love and why people appreciate. I haven't seen much of RGV's work to be able to say in general how I feel about him, but I love Rangila. So at least, there is some good faith for him there for sure. So that's the sort of thing. So it's like, I can understand why it's on another person's list or why it's up here, but it's not for me in that sense. Yeah.
No, it's fair, and he may be homophobic. Like, not that I know him personally, but
No, it is 100% homophobic. There is no borderline homophobia. It's outright homophobic, and it's very much representative of who RGV is, by the way.
yeah. So Amrita, I'll hand it over to you now. Your thoughts on Company.
No, I was listening to you talk about this film, and like all the things that you pointed out are absolutely true. And of course, this was the first movie that Mohanlal did in Hindi, and that iconic line that everybody remembers to this day, like about the samp and like making friendship with the snake, which I don't even think is an actual muhavra, is something that I think they just wrote for the film. But and I remember like really positive things about this film when it came out, like when Khalas, which is the big item song in this film, when that came out, it sort of like reinvented what an item song could do, and it was like very specific to that the style of that film. And I remember for a few years after that, all the item songs looked exactly like Khalas. It was just hugely influential. And the Sandeep Chauta, soundtrack, like always a pleasure to hear that. But that being said, this movie did not make my list. And the reason that it didn't is because for me, I always associate this film with the decline of RGV as a filmmaker. If you see all the movies that he did after this, they're sort of like there's still successes in there, like Bhoot was a success, Sarkar was a success, even Sarkar 2 was a success, but you can see that he's sort of losing control over the craft, that he's sort of on this sort of gentle decline that then becomes a very steep decline. And it can also be seen in the fact that the energy shift in this film, when you compare it to the other movies that he did up till then, like for example, Dord was a huge goose egg, right? Like everybody was like, my God, this is a terrible movie, etc. But it had an energy to it. It had an authenticity to it. It had a texture to it. And then you come to Company, and Company seems to be sort of like an update on Satya. They just took all the energy and all the texture out of Satya, and then they just made like all these like people who the characters that looked like they were stand-ins for stereotypes, and they were just like, well, this man is a policeman, and this man is the head honcho of a gang, and this is what they will do. And everybody was sort of like moving according to their preset, I don't even know what to call it, but they were just sort of like moving like they were on a very orderly chess piece.
Like a programmed session.
Yeah. And I didn't appreciate it at all. I agree with both Cris and Dhruv. Like this movie is not for me. This is not something that I really enjoyed, even back then, and probably definitely not now.
No, if I may just on the Mohanlal performance, because I am very infamously known for disliking Mohanlal post mid 2000s. Like his performance and the kind of films he's making have rapidly deteriorated, I feel, in the last decade or two. But I really like him here, and for me it's a very similar trajectory, I say, for Ajay Devgan, but it's very interesting also because of when South actors, or like for example Malayali actors, act in Hindi films and how they deal with Hindi. It's very interesting because I know for Dhruv, like Mohanlal's Hindi was quite difficult to sort of.
Yeah, I thought I should have had subtitles on. Yeah.
Whereas for me, who's used to sort of
Yeah.
Mallu Hindi, I would say I might much prefer something like this as compared to what someone like Prithviraj does.
Oh, Param Sundari.
Let's not go there. I'm saying what what Prithviraj does, say for example in Sarzameen or in Bade Miyan Chote Miyan, where he's really forcing himself to speak in Hindi and it sounds really unnatural. Here at least he's sort of compensated, like the fact that his accent, he has one, is accounted for. I think that is much better of an approach. And I really still like his performance quite a bit, this is still when he was doing good stuff. Than it would be later on. Yeah.
I have one little piece of like film lore that I'll throw in here since Chris brought up Mohanlal. And that is like after this movie was over, Mohanlal actually sued RGV because he didn't get paid. And it was like, it went on for a while. And then I think RGV finally settled his dues because Mohanlal was like, I'm already Mohanlal. You don't need to pay me in exposure. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, love it. Beth, your thoughts and company?
So I can be really fast. I have not seen this film, nor do I wish to. So that's easy peasy. I do actually quite like some RGB. So I'm glad he's in this 25 list, even if this is the film. I think we can all assume that Rangila is elsewhere. But, you know, I know we don't know, and only Vikas knows. But so I'm glad. And even just from the discussion that has already happened about this film, like this is why lists are so interesting and complicated, right? Like we could, do you put someone on because of their past or their, you know, like this is all very fascinating to hear.
No, I appreciate it because in 2025, looking back at company, I completely get all the issues that everyone's flagged with it, right? Like there's no arguments there. But I remember watching this as a teenager, and for me, well, I was probably be 19. I wouldn't say that's not necessarily teenager, but Ajay Devgan's performance was the first kind of a leading performance at that point in time. Remember, this was Shah Rukh's era, and he was all romance, and this was a complete counter. And this kind of restrained and what they say Tehra wala performance we did see in mainstream cinema. So there was a novelty factor there, and this Mohanlal thing also. The casting was inspired because there was in reality an inspector from the south who was deployed to do the investigation on this one. So he was trying to. That's why he casted him. And that line, you know, where he tells this Bollywood actor, "17 called ki recording hai aapke aur unke hi hello ke beech mein." That is a stand-in for Salman Khan. So you know there are some inspired choices there. But yes, I do get but I agree with Amrita. This is where he kind of drops his finesse as a director, because he's if you look at his earlier Telugu movies, he's technically so brilliant, and like Sharak Sharam and Shiva and Rangila and even Dord. You're right. I mean, everyone likes to bitch about it, but it's a fun movie. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like the worst time you'd have. So I'm actually happy the company's here. I mean, we need some testosterone as well. So, you know, I'm here for that. So apologies.
I also want
but,
to
you know,
shout out Seema Biswas is great in this.
Seema Biswas is so good, yeah.
All the women actually are really, they again, lots of the issues I think I have with a lot of like templatized gangster films is the women characters are actually the more interesting ones, and they focus on the wrong people, which happens a fair bit in these films. I mean, but yeah, as you said, Manisha Koirala is just magnificent in this again. That's
and
not
again,
a new thing. Yeah.
But also in reality, I believe it was the Manisha Koirala character that revealed and got this one killed, because she said something. Yeah. So you know,
he's the catalyst essentially
catalyst
for
the whole
the
thing.
pieces to fall. Yeah.
So I can get it from today's, you know, that's what nostalgia and distance does. It gives you perspective, but then fondness also has its own charm. So we'll move on to the next movie on the list, which is number 13. And I'm hoping there is unanimous consensus that this is a great movie. And that is Maqbool, directed by Vishal Bhardwaj. Okay, that's a positive. All right, so we're all agreeing on that one. Beth, do you want to talk about Maqbool?
Sure. I wished I wish I had had time to rewatch this before recording. So again, I'll try to be brief. I think this is a masterpiece. I mean, this is a fantastic, fantastic film out of, you know, several of its very basic kind by the same director. If I had to pick only one, I don't even know which one I would pick, but I didn't have to pick just one, so that's nice. But this is just fabulous and taboo forever.
Yeah, I'm in agree.
That's all.
Amrita,
I
you
mean, this is a
fan?
movie. Yeah, I mean, like, this is a movie with like some timeless performances, right? Like, I don't know if I would place it exactly where it is because I definitely have my favorites from the Vishal Bhardwaj oeuvre. So, but this is fantastic, and it's like one of those movies where the performances really hold up to the test of time. I think I last rewatched it maybe 5 years ago, but I can still remember so much of it, right? And there are still scenes that I'll go back and like rewatch because I just have like that specific thing where well, a lot of scenes between Tabu and Pankaj Kapoor actually.
Yeah.
Like those are just like they both walk on this knife's edge when they're interacting with each other, and it is like watching two maestros duel it out. I love it. So yeah, I'm never going to quibble about Makbul.
Chris, what are your thoughts on Makbul?
Yeah, so this is also surprisingly a first time watch for me. I don't know how I ended up missing it because I am also quite a big Vishal Bhardwaj fan in general. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, it's got such an incredible cast. I mean, just amazing actors just giving it their all. But yeah, Tabu, I'm here for Tabu. I'm always here for Tabu. She's just so captivating. And I think for me, there is definitely this thing that I think if I had to only say one thing about it that I'm a bit iffy on is just that because of how intensely I enjoy the stuff between Irfan Khan and Tabu, the sort of intensity and the way that Vishal Bhardwaj sort of films it and has it be there. The rest of the stuff, the plot around it, I feel suffers a little bit. It becomes a bit. I definitely wasn't as invested in that, and I was very much like, can we get to the Irfan Tabu, or can we get to the parts where Tabu is there? Because I'm not as it becomes a bit plotty and then a bit I think less interesting to follow. But again, less interesting in like very relatively. This is excellent filmmaking, across the board. So only great things to say about it. Otherwise, again, Pankaj Kapoor does an amazing performance, and again, I love what Nasruddin Shah and Om Puri are going for. They have a great dynamic between the two of them. So yeah, it's one of those films that definitely you can keep coming back to and will just only get better with time, I feel. Yeah.
Awesome. Dhruv?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of it has been said by you guys. I think it is the rough gem of Vishal Bhardwaj's filmography, which is to say that I always thought I didn't like it but admired it, but then I rewatched it yesterday and I was like, I really do like it. I see the flaws still. I think the second half is particularly very conflicted between being like a psychological sort of, people who have committed horrible things, sort of reckoning with that, split and between like all the plot pieces fitting together. The plot pieces fitting together is, I think, fairly tangential almost. I would happily have the film essentially be Tabu and Irfan Khan essentially losing their mind for the entirety of the second half and the world around them, collapsing accordingly. Like, I don't need to see the other world after the first half, I think, because I think the first half does a great job of setting it up. But yeah, I mean, you get this cast and you can't go wrong, I think. Like, who can assemble this cast now? I mean, one of them, of course, we've lost, sadly, so we can't assemble this cast. But yeah, I just think it's a dream cast. Like, who gets to have this many great character actors or just star act? Because I think both Tabu and Irfan are more than capable of pulling off star actor performances. They're not just character actors. And what a joy to have. I was just like, this is a dream to watch all these people act so well on screen. Even like Piyush Mishra is great. Like, they everyone gets like their bit parts. And Pankaj Kapoor, I was just like, he's doing something consistently with his eyes, where it's like he's got this menacing feel to him, but he also says everything so gently in this. Like, it's like, and I love Irfan being the foil essentially of him, who's like consistently meek. So like there's like great stuff here with regards to performances, and I think, yeah, it's not my favorite Vishal Bharadwaj film, but not my favorite Vishal Bharadwaj film is probably still my favorite of that year. Like it's one of those things. I'm very much a Vishal Bharadwaj fan. I've liked films which no one likes, I think, of his also. So this includes Rangoon. So it's going
I
there.
like Rangoon.
I don't know. I don't get the Rangoon hate, but yeah, I'm a Vishal Bharadwaj fan. So yeah.
I agree with everything everyone said, and
Yeah.
I think for me, in Vishal Bharadwaj is one of my favorite all-time favorite directors in Hindi cinema. Like he's in the top 5, top 10 for sure. And what amazes me, this is the second movie, and this is such a terrific adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth. Like the first opening shot of the three witches, those three police inspectors discussing it. It's like you couldn't do it any better. And the way he transposes this into a very sort of a local milieu, a Shakespeare play, into this Indian atmosphere and give it that ruggedness is just fantastic. And my God, Taboo, like when she tells Irfan Khan, "Bara til hai mere badan pe, kaha dhoondho," and it's like, my God, like she is really getting him. And in the end, when that scene,
Ishq Paak
hamara
tha na.
pyar paak tha na miya, and you were like, oh my God, like it gives you goosebumps. And I think this is to his credit as a writer and as a director. And I'm amazed that even his camera placements in this movie is terrific. Of course, Kamine to me is his most polished movie as a director in terms of technicality. It's crisply edited and it's wonderfully shot, and he really gets the camera going. But here, the camera is static for the most part of the movie. There are not many tracking shots or trolley shots and stuff like that. But he knows the way, even all the characters, the placements of them, where Pankaj is sitting, where Tabu is sitting, where all the henchmen are sitting. It is so well thought of, so well curated. Like, and this is one of Tabu's greatest performances, I have to say. Like, I mean, to say Tabu's great performances is another list of its own, but this, she truly is magnanimous in this movie. And Dhruv, as you said, the casting, like you can never think of a better cast in a movie like that. And Gulzar's lyrics and the music, it's like, I love this movie. I'm so happy. But I'm with you. I think even if Kamine was here, I would have been wrapped because that's another movie that I love. Rangoon, I don't have any issues with Rangoon. I mean, apart the ending is a little bit whatever, but it's still better than anything Rohit Shetty has ever done in his entire career. Don't send me messages, Rohit Shetty fans. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next movie on the list, which is Mr. Yash Chopra's Veer Zara. Now, before I just have to say, I love half of this movie, which is the movie directed by Yash Chopra, which is the first half. But when the movie is directed by Aditya Chopra, let's be honest, there is an Aditya Chopra in the second half. That doesn't work for me at all. But I can see why it appeals to a certain kind of an audience. The first half is just pure, as Amrita rightly said, pure syntax of Bollywood, pure Yash Chopra. I mean, to cast Amitabh and Hema Malini, and the scenes between them are so endearing and they're so lovely, and the banter that goes on is just so amazing. And to me, the first half, I'm a Sindhi. So my grandmother, she was before partition in Pakistan, and obviously, like just like Zora Sehgal's character wanted to come back to India. My grandmother at one point said she wants to go and visit Pakistan and see her childhood home, and everyone in his family like, you're not getting a visa. Pakistan doesn't give visas to, so you have to stay right here. So she was very disappointed because I can get that character's like the sense of nostalgia because it was a home. She had to leave her home, her friends, her family, and she had thrown out of her country to come here. So there was it appealed to a certain. I'm guessing many people who had to who were impacted by partition of a certain age. That entire generation was impacted by this, and it came at a good time because the Vajpayee administration was there. The relationship between the two countries were at a good in a healthy space. Vajpayee was going there, Sushma Swaraj was going there, and they were planning to open the borders and have trains going at each other. But khair, abhi to that's a different case. But it really captures a sort of a nostalgia and a kind of an era of filmmaking that I genuinely miss. Like that scene when Preeti Zinta and Amitabh are going on the bicycle and she says, अगर लड़के पढ़ सकते तो लड़कियां क्यों नहीं? And he immediately stops and say, मैं salam de नहीं मैं salam no, not salam, he said मैं Satsvia, whatever he says, he basically says, I thank the person who raised you and giving you these values.
Yeah.
There is a certain emotional dexterity and sincerity that only Chopra could bring. But the second half, save me. I will rant, so someone else, I will hand it over to Beth. Your thoughts on Veer Zara?
Good seg. I think I agree with everything that you've just said. This is a movie that colossally does not work for me. However, I get the dexterity and the power of Yash Chopra's, can I say sentimentality? And I don't mean to make that a diminished thing, but like clearly emotionally there is a lot going on here, but I just find this bloated and ridiculous. And like when that bus falls over, you're just like, oh, I fell over with the bus, and I have rewatched it recently. This is nobody's finest work in this film, in my opinion, at all. I'm actually shocked. I'm kind of surprised it's in the top 20 in this list of 25.
Me too.
That it's so high. I was when I pulled up your email, I was like, oh no. I also hate the music from this film. I hate it. I find it bloated, old, like outdated in a way it doesn't seem vintage. It just seems like there's a reason these songs weren't used before. To me, I really dislike almost everything about this movie. However, I do think that I was shocked on my rewatch that I enjoyed Amitabh and Hema so much. And again, I play to an auntie-uncle crowd. Like I was like, oh yes, they are the right people in this movie. Their emotions were way more interesting to me than the grand romance, which I find absurd. And I'll stop.
Good. Amrita, you a fan or you on the fence?
No, I'm not a fan. I don't like this movie. But I do think this is an important movie in the filmography of Yash Chopra because the partition, like he himself went through the partition as a young child, and even his first film, like if you look at Dharmputra, it's about the wounds of the partition, right? It's about a child that is found during the partition riots, grows up in a very Hindu, upper caste sort of patriarchy sort of setup, and hates Muslims, just cannot stand them, and then discovers that he was actually a Muslim child that was like raised by a Hindu family, and it's sort of like there's a lot of things like it's a first film. It came out in like 1957, I want to say. And it's very much of its time. It's a very young Shashi Kapoor, and you can see like the duct tape and the stitches that are like holding it together. But it is a very heartfelt film, and it is something like this motif of families being torn asunder, of brothers being torn asunder, of betrayal in the most unlikeliest of places, of the land itself turning against you. Like in Waqf, it is the earthquake and the flood that comes and like tears this family apart. So it's the land itself that like throws you in different directions. Like this is all like stuff that you can see all through Yash Chopra's filmography. It is like I'll always be thankful to this film for like one reason and one reason only, and that is the song Main Yahan Hoon, which is gorgeous, like absolutely, like so Bollywood, so perfect, and so Yash Chopra, and it only could have been made by like Shah Rukh Khan and Preeti Zinta. Like they're both like just perfect in that song, but for the rest of it, I don't really care for it. Like. Sure, but like I do know that a lot of people love this film, like unironically love this film, and they honestly think that this is great acting. They think it's great filmmaking, and sure, like
One of our
This is
common friends, Amrita, you're one of our very close common friends loves this movie. So you
Oh, you
you
have
can
two people
imagine.
here who unironically very much love this movie
Very,
also.
very much love this
I was
movie.
about to say Chris is on mute. I'm pretty sure he's dying inside, like listening
I'm
to
like
this.
if my mic was on, you could audibly hear my heart breaking.
No, we both unironically love this, I think. I get exactly what the complaints are, though. Let me be very clear. Like, I totally get it. There is a but as Vic, you were saying, there's a sincerity to this which I entirely buy. And if anyone doesn't buy that, it is ludicrous, ridiculous, and you just can't, because it is a notion stretched to the breaking point. Like, I mean, especially now, it's like, will anyone wait? What is this sort of very, very almost, it's saccharine, sacrificial love in many ways? And I'm like, it's so committed to it that I'm like, I don't believe it, but I will because you believe it. It's one of those things. And I think Shahrukh and Preeti do wonders here. The only part I'm little unconvinced by is the Rani Mukherjee and Anupam Kher section, which I think is the weakest part of the section beyond anything. I think
That's
Anupam
Aditya
Kher's.
Chopra.
Well, I'm a Aditya Chopra fan also, so I
So
don't
am
know.
I, by the
Okay,
way.
sorry.
So no. You don't need to say sorry at all. No. But I think for me, it's the sincerity only, and I think you're talking about nostalgia. I think the 2004 era of being, this is what Veer Zara Main Hoon Na Swades, right? Those are the three that came out. So it's also the time of us reminiscing in many ways what that time, how optimistic what that time was, and how the films channel that optimism in a way which again either feels like, to me, I can see why the emotions in this feel phony to people who don't buy into the melodrama, right? But I'm like, when he says whatever Shah Rukh Khan says, when he like on a whim decides to quit his job and leave to go to Pakistan, I'm like, I believe him. I'm like, like, to me, I believed him. So I'm like, okay, like, I get it. And I had a minor heart attack when I heard the songs aren't good, because I think the songs are wonderful. So yeah, I mean, again, it's old fashioned for me in a way which works entirely, which I can see why the old fashioned nature of it won't work for people also. It's insane though that it re-released recently and has garnered some insane amounts of reappraisal. I'm like, this is not the type of film I would expect to do well now when it's re-released. Like, it feels like a bit of a age-old film, and for good or bad, that depends on, of course, whoever likes it.
I mean, we're getting war too. What else are we supposed to do apart from reappraising
Well,
these?
that's true. Well, everything is getting a reappraisal nowadays. That's
Yeah,
true.
true.
Yeah.
Chris,
No,
curious
I
to know
mean,
your thoughts. Yeah.
yeah, I rewatched this film last year when the Veer Zara re-release or the Shah Rukh re-release were happening, couple of them. Watched it twice, cried for the entire 3 hours non-stop when I watched it both times. It's and a film that I love so deeply, and I find it's one of my favorite Shah Rukh performances, if I'm being very honest. And I've been a huge Shah Rukh fan my entire life. But to me, the nostalgia about it is almost like it's a nostalgia for a time I didn't experience, because I was very young when Veer Zara comes out. So I have grown up very much in the time where already something like Veer Zara is an unattainable future or an unattainable past. So to me, there is that sort of love that comes for it also, because again, you look at something like Mehuna as well, which takes a very different stance towards politics and geopolitics which is incomparable to today's landscape. But I just think it's wonderfully made. I'm again, like Dhruv, I'm a big Aditya Chopra fan. There are I don't like Befikre before someone
Neither do
accuses
I.
me
Just
of
saying,
liking
yeah, I
Befikre.
mean,
But Rabne is particularly a film that I love to absolute bits. But it is, for me, the reason I love it is because it's a great synthesis of Yash Chopra and Aditya Chopra's sensibilities. And for that going wrong, I would point to something like Jab Tak Hai Jaan. But I think here it's a really great synthesis of this sort of love and desire to reconcile these irreconcilable differences with this saga romance, which I completely buy into. And like Dhruv says, it's this, for me, the unbelievability of it is what I consider to be quintessentially Bollywood. Like when it is so unbelievable, but the sincerity and the emotions are just so attuned that you're like, you know what, this is unbelievable, but I absolutely believe it and I absolutely buy it. And I see that these are two people who would unironically wait so many years for the other and who would, say these things to each other and would, that to me is what Bollywood is, or the kind of Bollywood I grew up with. So nothing but like unabashed and unending love for this film. Yeah.
No, I get for me, but Jab Tak Hai Jaan is all Aditi Chopra. Just so you know. Sorry, I'm being a bitch here, but that is all. I don't see any Yash Chopra in Jab Tak Hai Jaan.
Well,
But
can I,
the
can I,
second-
sorry, Vic, can I ask? I've only watched 3 or 4 Yash Chopra films in my life, right? So I've not,
Can I ask
I've
which
not,
ones have you
What?
watched?
yeah, I've only watched 3 or 4 Yash Chopra films in my life, and I
Which
have
ones?
only liked Veer Zara. So can you please fill
Wait,
me in on?
No,
Which
but can you
movies
tell
have
me
you
which
seen?
movies have you
I
watched?
have
of yours?
watched. I recently watched Dar, which I didn't care for. Sorry.
Okay.
Then I watched Silsila, which I also didn't care for. So like I've watched a smattering of stuff as opposed to a lot of stuff. And Jab Tak Hai Jaan I don't care for also. So
So the ones that you like, Beth and I are huge fans of the 70s Yash Chopra.
70s, okay.
That
Same,
is
same.
our jam.
Sure, okay.
You need to
So
watch
that's Diwar
Trishul.
and all that, right? So,
You need to watch, well, Diva, sure, but like Kala Patthar is like
That's the
an
one.
amazing film.
Sure.
And
It
what?
is, yeah. Waqt, I
Waqt.
mean,
But, okay.
the 60s Chopra is also like, if you watch like, I don't know, like if you ever find yourself wanting to do like a series or like, you just want to do like trace a director's
Yeah.
journey and filmography, Yash Chopra is such an amazing person to do it with because you can see him change but remain true to his core self as he moves from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s to the 90s and beyond. And in every decade he manages to come through with a movie that you just go like, how did this man zig when everybody else was zagging?
Sure. Got it.
And he's so deft. He's so deft. He's just so good at keeping his, like, everyone talks about Diwar because like it's Diwar, but there's like so many other, like even Kabhi Kabhi is like it's just
Lamhe.
such
Lamhe is
Lamhe. I think
masterpiece.
I know that Beth hates Lamhe.
I love Lamhe. It's one of my favorite movies.
But
Got
it's
it. No,
not,
no, no. I was just asking because it's the weird situation where I've liked Veer Zara and I've not clicked with his other work. And I'm like, what am I seeing here then that
No.
I'm not seeing in other places? Or am I blind? That's also a good question to ask. But yeah.
No. I think I get it because the Yash Chopra's skill set is selling you a certain sincerity of human relationships, and he does this in different forms. Like Kala Patthar is about human relationships, but because Salim Javed is there, they bring there's certain realism and a certain restraint to them. Like with Chandni, again, there's the romance, the sincerity, but the men are annoying. So his skill set through all his movies, whether you look at Kabhi Kabhi or Silsila or Lamhe, Chandni, one of his most commercially successful movies, and even if you like Veer Zara, you might even like Dag, which is sort of on a similar template where it is about the emotions are real, but his women are mostly vapid but they're beautiful to look at. They rarely exercise agency, but they have this heart of gold. Unless they are Salim Javed women, where they are working women, and they are.
I've also watched Dil To Pagal Hai, I forgot. Sorry. I like Dil To Pagal
so
Hai in
I
a sort
think,
of pop, like
yeah.
in
It's
the
pop,
upbeat.
yeah.
Yeah, in the pop.
I think a lot of people who like their idea of Yash Chopra is post Dil To Pagal Hai,
Yeah.
and for Beth and me at least, it's like the older Yash Chopra, and they are. I would actually disagree with Vic. Like I don't think the women in Dag are.
No. I said not like much later.
Sure.
The post Dil To Pagal Hai, Veer Zara women. Yeah.
Because like he was like one of the very few directors who was like like his women were working women, his women were had agency, his women were like they were in fantastical situations, like you were saying about Vizara, Dhruv.
Yeah.
It's like really bonkers plot where, like Dag is like a really bonkers plot, but you go with it because you're just like, yeah, like I believe
Sure.
this because the chemistry of the two was just
Yeah,
like
I mean, I totally get it. I mean, Jab Tak Hai Jaan has the most bonkers plot, I think. It's just, you have Katrina Kaif selling that bonkers plot. That is the most bonkers decision I've seen any filmmaker take. I'm like, you don't hinge your film on Katrina Kaif. Sorry.
Attempting
Uh,
to sell, sir. You don't say selling.
sorry, attempting to sell. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
He also directed a thriller called Ittifaq, which is again
amazing.
amazing. And the
Sure.
Nanda character, his that woman, she
Yeah.
is. If you watch it,
Don't
man, like
spoil it.
I
Don't
was
And to
spoil
get
it
I've
that
for
seen
from
everyone.
the I've
Nanda.
seen the remake, so I
no,
kind
no,
of know
remake
the
is
yeah.
rubbish. Just
I mean,
watch the
that I
original
know,
one.
but like, yeah, I will. 60, 70 years Chopra, done. Thank you guys. I just wanted to.
No, sorry, just
Yeah.
for what Amrita was saying, post Dar, his women just are, even Chandni to an extent, but post Dar, his women became more beautiful to look at and more vapid. Like the characters, Dil To Pagle with Nisha being an exception, but yeah, so it's sort of like they didn't
Nisha,
really have.
Nisha was though. Nisha was like a little bit of a nothing, but it was Madhuri Dixit playing her, and therefore Madhuri has like the swag that she brings into it. So I think that was all Madhuri. I don't think it was the script at all, honestly.
No, no, no. So
Which,
like Nisha in Charisma Kapoor,
Oh,
she had her emotional intelligence was quite there, whereas Madhuri was I felt बिचारी car crash में पैर मर गए ये ट्रांसपेरेंट सलवार कुर्ते पहन के घूम रही है पूरे शहर में and then it was anyway, let's not get into the all right. So, okay. So, and sorry, just quick on before we wrap on Veer Zara, I just want to give a shout out to Anil Mehta. The cinematography is stunning. Like, we don't get movies that look so good. And Manish Malhotra, he's not a good costume designer, he's a good stylist. I really don't know anyone from Pakistan. There are many Pakistanis here in Melbourne. None of the women are wearing itna whatever mascara on there or whatever you call that, and with that permed hair and walking around in. So even so, so that and the funniest thing to me will never be Shah Rukh is supposed to be 60 and he's got these gray hair and he's old, and Shah Rukh is 60 and he's doing Jhube Jo Pathan, and I'm like, that is so unnerving.
I know.
All right, now we move on to the next movie at number 11. And this is a movie that, Beth, I know you have championed from since I've known you. It's Paheli, directed by Amol Palekar. So I'll hand it over to you to talk about Paheli.
Yes, I have, and I'll just say this is the only thing in the chunk that we're talking about that was on my list of 25. So I'm thrilled to see it here, and you can do with that what you want. I think this movie is magical. I think it is gorgeous. I think the chemistry is absolutely just a bomb of heat and love and attraction and all this stuff. I think it's whimsical in a good way, but it's also earthy, and it's beautiful to look at, as we say on the Filmi Ladies podcast, beautiful. Everyone is gorgeous. And you were speaking on Virzara about, do you kind of buy it and go along or not? And for me, I was in from the get-go on this film, and every time I rewatch it, I'm still just carried right along, even though, there are things about it. I mean, but it's a fable, and it's presented as such, which I really love. So, and it's very particular when our suspension of disbelief will work and when it won't, or when it is, kind of enacted and when it is not. And this, for me, I'm just very swept up in this gorgeous, golden, heat-filled, interesting film.
Amrita, I know you're a fan as well. It was very high on your list as well. Yeah.
I mean, this movie, like, I'm so glad it found its space on this list because I genuinely didn't think it would. Because I think, like, I've only ever met Beth who likes it. Everybody else is like, my Haley. But I think it's an important film, and I think it is an important film for a couple of reasons. One is that this is one of those very few post-2000s movies that has an element of whimsy to it. And this was perhaps one of the last where it was at least accepted a little bit, because by the 2010s, I feel, people just stopped accepting whimsy. People were just like, well, I don't understand this. What do you mean I need to make a leap? You know, like I don't get it. Like I need to be spoon fed everything. And I don't think Bollywood has anyone to blame but itself, because that is something that it trained its audience to expect. And therefore they were just like, like, well, this is what I want now because this is the only thing that I can digest. So I don't anyway, but I also think it's important because this is a mainstream film made by a very mainstream actor, but it's about female desire, and it's about a woman exercising her agency, and it's about about a ghost, but a ghost masquerading as a man who asks for consent at a time when nobody was talking about consent. Like, I remember those days. This was some dark times. And this movie just sort of like really spoke about all of those things. And I know this is a version of Shah Rukh that we'll never see again, because now everything is Pathan and Jawan and King and whatnot. But I'm really grateful for the fact that this existed once upon a time.
I agree. Chris, your thoughts? Have you watched the movie?
I have. I actually did a major Shah Rukh binge at the end of 2023, where I went to his entire filmography, and this was a very interesting piece in the middle of that. I'm actually kind of surprised to see it here, because I know, at least from my experience, very few people even know this film exists, to be very honest. Or it's more like when I ask my parents, or like older people, a generation older than mine, or one or two, they'll be like, oh yeah, that film. Like, everybody remembers, people remember of it or have heard of it, but very few, like, I know, who know it or have watched it or remember it. So I went into it as a bit of a curiosity, and I personally quite like it. I think it's a very interesting film. It does very interesting things, like Beth and Amrita were pointing out. There's a great exploration of female desire, of consent. I actually did a queer reading of the film a couple of years ago, because I think there's something very interesting where it asks these questions about masculinity, and what does it mean to be a man with where you see all these male role model or male characters in the family being people who constantly fail the women in their life, and it's this ghost masquerading as a man being the one who actually does what is quote unquote expected that the man is supposed to do, or not in a gender role way, but in just as the person they're supposed to be sort of way in this landscape. So it's a very well made film. It's a very well acted film. I'm a fan of Shah Rukh and Rani as a pairing. Not my favorite, but definitely one that I do quite like. So it's one of those, I like this film a lot. I think it's well made, but it's just not that something that comes up in my consideration where I'm thinking of this kind of a list, just because it's a bit of a curiosity more than something I look of as a sort of front running. Even like great performance from Shah Rukh, a great contrast between the two characters, the ghost and Kishan Lal, I think he's called the. And there's great, you see a lot of variety and diversity in what he can do there, which, like Amita pointed out, we are very rapidly losing and possibly may never recover. But yeah, just good time, good film.
Dhruv?
Same thoughts as Chris. I mean, I rewatched it. I think I saw the list you had sent, and I was like, I messaged Chris saying, Baheli? Really? Like, really, in the sense that I just never hear people talk about it. Not in a sense that it's a bad film or anything. I'm just like I've not heard about Paheli itself for such a long time. I rewatched it and I was like, this is very good. Like, I'm like, this is the sort of stuff which I would like. If this is what Bollywood gave before, can you please give more of this? Like, in that sense, I'm like, this is perfectly, like, very good, very well made. And I think what Chris was talking about, and Amrita and Beth both are talking about, like, the whimsy thing is there. I would have happily had the whimsy not be as telegraphed as the film does sometimes. Like, I can do without the puppets as much as I like Ratna Pathak Shah and Nasiruddin Shah voicing them. Regardless, I thought it was really well made. It's adapted from a short story, I think, which has Money Call made a experimental version of this in 1970s, and I have a feeling a lot of people don't talk about Paheli also because it's sort of in comparison to that, it's the impure sort of version of the Vidha because it's Bollywoodized. So ignore those people. I'm just saying that that's the sort of perception it comes with. I think Money Call's adaptation, I've seen both. So Money Call's adaptation, I think, has its own limitations, in my opinion. I think his approach limits how much agency he can give to the female character itself. Like it's basically the camera becomes the central point as opposed to, or the filmmaking becomes the central point as opposed to the woman in the frame, which I don't think happens in Paheli because Paheli is, and I think Shah Rukh is great at actually not making this a Shah Rukh Khan text and letting it be a feminist text, which I thought was very interesting. Like it is about Rani Mukherjee, it is about the other women. Juhi Chawla. It's always nice to see Juhi Chawla pop up in anything. I think she's a lovely presence. So yeah, like it's got a lot of great elements. It's very well directed. I don't know, like it's there. I think Amrita and Beth are right. Like this is the sort of film you won't get now, and it's quite sad because there is really nothing wrong with a bit or a lot of whimsy even. We can do with I mean, I know what we are getting now, so I mean, anything is better than that. But yeah, whimsy is welcome, and this is really good. So yeah, it's good. I actually took this and as an opportunity to rewatch it. So thank you actually to the list for having it.
No, I have to say Beth is has been championing this movie. So I watched it when it came out, and then because Beth talks about it and she's spoken at length on her podcast as well. So I kind of got into it again, and I agree with Amrita and you, Dhruv, that we it's not that we won't even get these movies back. I don't even think we'll ever get these kind of male characters back on cinema. Like today, Ranbir Kapoor's entire on-screen persona is targeted at the incel community, and it's sort of empowering the incels to sort of say, you deserve all the women to love you, and if they don't love you, they are at fault. And here you have, and I mean, I'm not a biggest Shah Rukh fan, but I rewatching a lot of his movies recently, and I appreciate what he brings to this, the sensitivity and the masculinity to the men, in especially to this period of his cinema, whether it's Swadesh, whether it's Paheli. He's done really, really some very inspired choices. The movie was a box office failure when it came out, because there's no accountability for taste anymore at any time. You could sort of argue that.
It's
but
also like it's strange because it's actually I think it's a fairly commercially
it's a fairly commercial
viable
movie. It was
I
mounted
don't
as
think
that.
yeah, so it's strange. Yeah.
And it's no, I have great appreciation for this one because I don't know if we'll ever get men on screen like this, and this sort of sensitivity of how men and women should deal with each other or interact with each other. Like today, if I was watching Sayara, and I was like, if a generation is going to think this is how men and women should interact with each other, then God save us. I mean, God bless all of us then in that scenario.
Hey, maybe
Uh,
they think that Tere Ishq Mein is how men and women should be
oh yeah,
doing it
totally.
together. So
How
it's
exciting.
I
always
am I'm very excited about the discourse around that film, I think, more than anything else. But yeah. Yeah.
And shout out to the costumes. I think the costumes and the art direction of this movie is absolutely fantastic. All right, we're now getting the top 10 of the list. And at number 10, we have one of my favorite movies I mean, from the past 25 years. Trust me, I love this movie. And before I get all the complaints, like it's not perfect and the subplots and all don't work. But man, this is a movie which is, I think I'm the target audience for it. Like, I love this movie to bits. Andhadhun by Sriram Raghavan. And again, we've got Tabu giving one of the banging performances of her career. She is so, so good in this. And the movie is funny, unexpected, hilarious. I mean, the scene when she throws off that woman from the balcony, I'll never
Yeah,
forget
sorry.
that. That to
Yeah.
me will be a classic moment in Hindi cinema. I'll start with you, Dhruv. Your thoughts on Andhadhun?
I mean, it's the Vishal Bhardwaj syndrome I have with Sriram Raghavan. Very much a big fan of Sriram Raghavan. So a lot of whatever he does work for me, minus maybe Agent Vinod, but that's whatever, and hopefully not whatever he's coming up with next. But but no, I mean Andhadhun. Do people really not like Andhadhun? I'm just.
I'm so
I was
surprised.
like, people don't like Andhadhun, really? Like,
Oh, there are all kinds of people. So yeah.
okay, interesting. I was like, Andhadhun, I thought was the one of the few films which was like everyone really appreciated at least, even when they didn't think it was their jam. Like, it's. But this is, as Vic, you were saying, it is entirely my type of thing also. Dark humor, and like just again, I think Tabu is just magnificent in this. Like the switch between funny and serious, and like the way she goes about it is just terrific. Ayushmann Khurrana probably gives his best performance also
Yeah.
in this, and I mean, the only thing I guess is that this is one of those films which unfortunately has such a identifiable high point that everything else that happens is great but not that good, which is the piano sequence when the body reveal happens. The fact that that happens and then the rest of the film has to catch up to how good that scene is the only issue I have with it. Apart from that, again, there's just, I thought this was very universally loved. So I'm like, I don't know what else to add. What has been said, it's no one makes dark comedies which are like funny
Exactly.
actually. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. So very much a fan. Very much a fan. Yeah.
Chris, you a fan?
Yeah, I absolutely am. I mean, one of the biggest, vendettas or gripes I hold with my parents is that they went to watch this in the theater without me, and then by the time I got around, it was no longer on the big screen, and so I never got to watch it. And I have never forgiven them for that. But yeah, I think this film is really interesting because Sriram Raghavan is a very well-known director, but I still feel like, I think possibly with Badlapur, but I feel like it was with Andhadhun that he really gets to basically everyone. Like, I remember my parents were absolutely obsessed with this film when they watched it. And again, that's why I'm surprised to even imagine someone who can't, or people as a larger trend not liking this film, because I felt like it had some things that everybody would enjoy. I think it's consistently funny. It's like you said, the dark humor, but I also think it's so incredibly well written and well executed, because there's so much going on, and so much of it relies on each of the twists sort of hitting at the right point for it to culminate towards, including the really, really like fun ending, like the last moment in the film, which requires all of these dominoes to fall right at the right time. And Raghavan does such an incredible job at pacing them, and Ayushmann and Tabu are just for me, my scene that I know Dhruv says the piano scene, that's one, but for me it's when she visits him with the mithai at his home.
The
That's
scream mask, is it?
Yeah, the scream mask. It's just such a fantastic back and forth between the two of them, because now you know both of their perspectives, and you're like, will they not? And then the reveal of the laddu being, or the prasad being poisoned. Like, there's something so great in how each of these scenes is constructed and executed that I think it's an absolute delight. I think even though I know it's I can't think a couple of songs, but I still quite like the music.
The music is very good, yeah.
It's I think Amit Trivedi who did the
Amit
music.
Trivedi, yeah, Dil Ka Kya Kasoor,
Yeah.
and those.
Yeah,
I think sorry, Vic, just one thing. I think the issue with Raghavan now is that anything he tries will unfortunately be compared to Andhadhun. Is also the other thing for people, because I think it became a very popularish title, because I know when Merry Christmas came, and I know it's not everyone's favorite. I'm a huge fan of Merry Christmas.
I like Merry Christmas.
So I was like, and the complaints was that it wasn't like Andhadhun, but it's not meant to be like Andhadhun is the whole thing. You have to keep on telling people that it's good to allow filmmakers to do whatever they want, and then of course if they make mistakes, call them out. But like, it doesn't need to be Andhadhun. You don't need another Andhadhun from Sriram Raghavan. We have one.
No,
But
no,
there's
it's
just a
definitely no.
Sorry, Chris, go.
No, I'm just saying that it's a thing that we expect a thing from a filmmaker. I think is a problem that we have sometimes. And Sriram Raghavan has got such a diversity in the films that he's made. Again, I've not watched all of them, but still, even comparing Andhadhun to Merry Christmas, you see such a range in what he can make and what he executes. that like I was saying, that's why I think that Andhadhun becoming so popular is almost kind of something that is negatively impact how people appraise, like Dhruv was saying, the rest of Raghavan's films, because now he's the guy who made Andhadhun. What now are we getting Andhadhun again because that's what everybody wants? But if it's not that, then it's not good. Not that, it's something else that he's made. But yeah, it's nothing but love and adoration for this as well.
Yeah, but that thing is, that's in a country. I like, it's that typical thing in a country. ये समोसा कल वाले समोसे की तरह अच्छा नहीं है. कल वाला समोसा अच्छा था. Like, it's a pretty samosa, eat it. They're the same with this, like the sort of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the people who don't like this movie are just telling me they don't like it to piss me off. So maybe everyone loves it, and all these people are just annoying me by saying they don't like this movie. Amrita, your thoughts on Andhadhun?
No, I mean, I agree with Cris and Dhruv. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't like Khandann. I think that really is a problem specific to you, because when you
Probably.
started by introducing this film and you had like so many caveats, I was like, what is he? Is he going to say like no entry or like welcome or something? Like, what is happening? And then you said Andhadhun, which is consistently the number one movie that I see being recommended to people who are like, I've never seen a Bollywood movie. Which one should I watch now? And literally somebody will come up and say, Andhadhun, watch it. To a point where at one point I would say anything but Andhadhun, even though like I enjoyed the movie and I love Sriram Raghavan. Dhruv was saying that he didn't care for Agent Vinod. Beth and I love that movie. Like, we think it's like so perfect. But yeah, like I see why it's in the top 10. I'm just very surprised that it wasn't even higher, given the number of people I know who like adore this film. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it's at number 10.
Beth, what are your thoughts on Andhadhun?
Pretty much
I
agreement
don't think
with
we've discussed Andhadhun with you, Beth, before.
No, I loved it the first time I saw it, and I agree with everything that everyone is saying. And I'm so glad Amrita brought up Agent Vinod, because I've seen that film like 5 or 6 times, and I love it even more every time I watch it. So I'm the weirdo. I've seen all of this director's films except Merry Christmas, which I'm actually watching this weekend, because Katrina is a big hurdle for me, y'all. And I was like, ugh, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Surprisingly, it's
She is
credit
the
to
best thing
him.
about
Credit
this
to
movie.
him, I think.
That's what I
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
I think that this film is I'm so glad Dhruv brought up the blackness of it, because I love a black comedy, and Hindi cinema does not make a ton of them to my awareness anyway. And I might even say I'm not aware of too many of them in India generally, although there's a lot I don't know. But this is a dark film, and also kind of whimsical and weird and funny, which is a great combo. I do want to say I tried to rewatch this recently when our podcast was doing a taboo episode, and I got to the corpse reveal, and then I kind of lost steam, and I never picked it up again, which surprised me because I remembered loving it so much. So I would like to finish rewatching it and kind of see what happened with me right there. And I'm a little bit of a goldfish in that any kind of mystery, I can have read it or seen it already. And if you wait a year, I will have forgotten quite a bit of it. So it's not that I knew what was coming that was bothering me, I don't think. But I just wasn't as hooked the second time. But I don't think that takes away anything from the film. I think, and like Cris, I really wish I'd seen this in the cinema too. I can only imagine how much fun that must have been. So yeah, I think this is a great choice. And I agree, it's a good choice for a newbie. I'd never thought about it. But yeah, why not? It's fun.
I mean, I agree. I think in Indian cinema, particularly the black comedy, is very far few in between. But it may not be the most strongest black comedy, but Vijay Anand did a lot back in his movie. Like Amrita and I discussed on Blackmail. Like, it is batshit crazy black
Good
comedy
point.
kind of movie.
Yeah.
And then in the mid 2000s, we got a series of movies like, I don't know if you have watched a movie called Phas Gaye Re Obama. And there's this classic line in that it goes, "Jab kismat mein likhe hai hathore, hum kahan se khayenge pakore." I thought that was just one of the. So we had these, but yeah, the mainstream audience kind of swore into this one. That was a surprise element for one.
Yeah.
Now, at number 9, we have a movie that I will request anyone to take it, because I want people to hate me less. Because the more I talk about this movie, the more people hate me. And that is Sanjay Leela Bhansali's Devdas. So, Cris, I will just because you're off camera, I'm just going to, I don't see your reaction, so I'm going to go with you, and we'll kick off with you to talk to us about Devdas and your thoughts on it.
Honestly, I would have volunteered if you hadn't given it to me because I have lots to say about this movie and very little good, if I'm being very honest.
Yes.
I was saying earlier that I'm a huge Shah Rukh fan, but this is one of my least favorite Shah Rukh performances. I think it's my bottom two. I despise this performance with a vengeance. And in general, I'm not a Sanjay Leela Bhansali fan. I don't get his style of storytelling, I'd say. I think he's a very accomplished aesthete and he makes very interesting and evocative images. I think he's got an eye for direction, which is why I feel like he should work as like a music video director because the whatever songs are there across his films I've mostly liked. Even this film has got some great song sequences, but the storytelling is I don't want I'm trying to be very articulate and very appropriate about it, but I'm just not a fan. It's just not something that appeals to me. Especially, and it's very interesting because my area of research is in camp, which is about aesthetic excess, and it's all about aesthetic excess. But SLB's aesthetic excess is just not for me because I think it fundamentally lacks a room for any kind of irony or humor or anything that's not a sort of self-satisfied smugness, which is my big problem with most of his filmography that I've seen. So Devdas becomes this. It's a very interesting piece because there are parts of it that work, that being Madhuri Dixit and Aishwarya Rai, who are doing a really good job in their parts, and I think they get what the film is going for. I think Shah Rukh is trying, and I definitely think he's doing what Bhansali wants him to do. I just think it's a very misguided choice to go there because I feel like for me there's zero investment in the plot at all because I despise Dev with a vengeance from the very beginning, and I understand that he's not supposed to be a likable character, but you can't take me on this entire saga of him if you don't evoke in me some sort of a reaction that is not just I want him to be miserable for the rest of his life out of him, or even though I like Aishwarya's performance or I like Madhuri's performance, the way the three of them play, or the way Aishwarya and Madhuri play off of Dev, I don't even care for them in the larger plot context, even if I care for them with respect to each other, especially the parts that they have together. So it's again, I have gotten a lot of hate for this take already, but I don't mind it. I don't like this movie. I think it's a very beautiful movie, but I don't think it's well told at all. Yeah.
Cris, can you name the other movie you dislike of Shah Rukh Khan's? That will also get you more hate.
Okay, I mean, that one I also say that I can't judge the storytelling of it because of how much I dislike Shah Rukh's performance. That is Dil Se by Mani Ratnam. It's another performance of his I utterly dislike. Yeah.
I agree with you on so if Sanjay Leela Bhansali only concentrated less on the embroidery in the ghagra and more on the plot, on the character development, I would give him some credit. If he concentrated less on the number of rose petals stuck in his women's hair and more on like establishing relationship between or at least if you're having a cohesive narrative, I would give him some credit. But I will have lots to say. But Amrita, I know you love this movie so much, don't you?
I don't love it as much as Beth, who has watched this movie in multiple languages and like is a Devdas completionist.
Devdas.
I think, what Cris is saying is absolutely spot on. Like Sanjay Leela Bhansali's devotion to his aesthetics or his sense of beauty, his sense of maximalism is basically so overpowering that it completely destroys anything that you can find salvageable about this film, right? Because the story itself, the story of Devdas, is like a lot of those Bengali novels that were made into cinema. They have a very specific cultural and political context that a lot of the Bengali versions, for example, that Beth has inflicted upon me, they seek to preserve that, right? And that is also why the best Devdas adaptation in Hindi is actually Dev D, which is like a movie that has a lot of things to say about, society at large.
Yeah.
And I would say even like Mukaddar Ka Sikandar does like a better job of it than Devdas, to be very honest. That being said, this movie was a cultural event. Like I remember, like everybody was dressing up like the women in Devdas. You couldn't go anywhere without everyone selling like Devdas bindis, Devdas bangles, Devdas saris, Devdas everything, like the Bengali aesthetic as seen by or as interpreted by Sanjay Leela Bhansali. And by the way, every single Bengali I know loathes this movie except for one person, and that's Saleha. So you should maybe ask her about it. Um,
But she's
but
a bit crazy like us, so yeah, I get it.
yeah, like I understand why this movie is on this list because everything around this film, and there are frames of this film that are just truly iconic, like that song where sorry, I'm blanking on the name now, but the one where Aishwarya has a thorn stuck in her foot, and
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
bring the Ras
Radha
Leela
Krishna.
music.
Yeah, yeah.
Radha
Yeah, they're
Krishna.
doing that, and it's I've seen like non-Indians who have like no idea what that is or what movie it's from, and they'll just see like just little clips or gifs from it, and then they will be like, "What is it? It's so beautiful and evocative." And these are not people who are familiar with Bollywood who even like like song and dance movies, if you want to be reductive, but
Yeah.
they're just so taken in by the composition of that frame and like how Sanjay Leela Bhansali shoots it, that they're just like, my God, like this is fantastic. I remember when they went to Cannes with this film, which is insane when you think about it. But it was like a moment, It was like the brash young India was just beginning to make its presence felt in the world, and this movie was sort of the spear point that we sort of drove into the culture at the time. I remember like so many things about this film, even though I have literally never watched it since it came out. And I probably, well, I was going to say I probably will never, but no, I will watch it once for my podcast. But which Saleha says that she will come and talk to us about it because, nobody else wants to talk about
Deal.
this movie that we know anyway. But yeah, I understand why this is in the top 10.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think so. So the late great critic from America, Richard Corollas, who used to write for Time magazine, put Devdas at his top 10 movies of the decade in the world. So it appealed. The to your point, the clips and the frames appealed to a certain non-Indian audience because it was evocative of a certain era, which they actually thought was like that. But little did they know that Calcutta, no one was walking around like that. But Beth, your thoughts on Devdas?
I'm a little sad to have been besmirched by my bestie here as a Buddhist. I am fascinated that this story has such a chokehold on Indian cinematic imagination. It's been made, I think, 12 times at least in many different languages. So I do find that fascinating because, like Cris was saying, I hate this character. I hate him. I don't think it's possible to make something from this source material that will work for me other than Dev D, of course. Of course. Yeah, this movie is bloated and self-indulgent at a level that is just unspeakable to me. And if it did not have the big dance off, I don't know that it would have stuck around for as long as it has. Pitu and Amrita and I were texting before these recordings saying, "Oh no, one of us is going to have to talk about Devdas, you know it." And I was like, "Oh man, we lost." I just will say that I have since come around somewhat on Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Like his more recent films, I like quite a bit better. I don't love them, but I think they're much more effective. And I don't know if it's just something about the way the dialogue has been done or another writing issue or what. But this is the kind of film where I think I said when I first watched it something like, when you have a small child and they bring home their artwork from school and you put it on the fridge. And this is what needs to happen with a film like Devdas. He needs to put it on his own fridge, but not ask any of us to pay money to see it. But here we are. We've given this man money to watch his stuff. And it was this earlier stuff that, but I'm also told that Khamoshi is really good. I've never seen it, but that I hear that that's the one to watch. But yeah, I hate this.
I mean, Kamoshi is its own kind of a mess, but that's a whole different thing. Dhruv,
I can't believe I'm the most positive about Devdas on this. I don't even love this film. I didn't think everyone will be in agree because I know Cris hates it. So I thought I'll have people battling him against this, not agreeing with him. But anyways, I rewatched the first half of it just before the recording because I have a impression of Sanjay Leela Bhansali in my mind where I most definitely don't like his work as a general thing. I'm not super into his brand of maximalism. I think it's, as I think Amrita and Beth very, I mean, I can't bring out better takedowns of Bhansali's aesthetic. But I think it's this whole idea that it is excess to the point of, suffocating emotions which come with it, which I would say, like, there is one scene in the beginning of this which involves Devdas coming back and his mother waiting for that. And I was like, I watched this in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum and found that great, but I don't like it here. Like, it's one of those things where it's like that, the level of excess also varies, right? There's Johar excess and then there's Bhansali excess. So most definitely, I'm not on the film's wavelength. But you guys were saying that it's all about production design and excess, that sort of excess. So I'm like, when I was watching it the first half this time, I was like, well, then then I think if it is about these objects, then it's quite interesting that the film is so centered around objects themselves. The diya, the binoculars, etc., etc. Those props become, I think, quite a good, emotional sort of, they are the ones, not more than the actors, that actually punctuate the emotions. Because I was watching it again and there's this song, Hamesha Tumko Chaha, which happens, and there's this brief moment where the grandmother is looking through her binoculars, hoping to see Dev and Paro in the opposite her house, essentially playing. And then I think the lyrics are something like wo bachpan ke din, or something like that. Like, it rhymes with whatever she's trying to do in that moment. And I was like, why was I moved by the binoculars more than the people? And I think that kind of gets at it also, though. I'm like, if it is about objects, I'm like, then make it entirely about those. And I think the film is Devdas's. I'm not sure about his other work. I don't click with his things. But I was like, there are scenes in this where I was like, will anyone make a frame like this ever? I was admiring its form quite a bit. Even though Shah Rukh Khan was almost underacting compared to the two women mothers in this who were on something, honestly. I was like, what have they taken? Like, what is this acting going on? It's like acting to the power of 1,000. And I'm like, this will work if you're doing it on like a stripped down stage, not on like a set which glorifies everything, which has close-ups and dramatic music. I'm like, this is just like an acting overdose to a different level. But I was like, I was more willing to go with it, even though I as a general thing, don't care about it that much. But yeah, I was like, the formal elements of it, which I think we care about less and less in any case nowadays. I was like, but then no one does stuff like this, do they? In my head, I was trying to justify his excesses and all that. So my defense of it would only come on that angle, as opposed to it moved me, because it doesn't move me that much. The climax, I think, is wonderfully edited, and I think it's wonderfully put together. Do I care about Dev ever in this? No, I don't think Shah Rukh is that good also in this, for me at least. I think he's too much, almost, I've realized, I've been watching a lot of his stuff recently. He's quite a director's actor in the sense that he will do what the director says. And I wish he didn't do what the director said here. Just because I think there is something interesting if he conflicts with the material and produces something which is more in line with what Irfan does with Makbul. I think there is a meekness which you can play into. I think Shah Rukh is too emotive in this. But anyways, again, I still can't believe I'm the most positive on this film. Here, I thought I'll be one of the people who doesn't care for it much, but yeah, great, great. Now the ninth film we are discussing is probably the most hated here.
No,
Uh,
I'll give you some positives. I have some
okay.
positive things to say because, as I said, I don't want people to hate me so much. Little bit hate is I can deal with. So the positives is, to me, this is the greatest Madhuri Dixit performance, and I'll tell you why. She is absolutely immaculate in this. Like, if you look at the song Mardala, there's a scene where she tells Milan Gunaji's character to sort of get out, and she throws the gungru down. But when she tells him to get out, there's a shot, and her eyes, there are tears and there's terror. Like, that is Saroj Khan and Madhuri Dixit just killing it. And again, in the climax scene, which after Dola Re Dola song, he does something interesting there. So the camera, if you look, is at Milad Gulaji's back when he's looking down at Madhuri and he's talking and he's berating her. But then she slaps him and the camera comes down and it's at her level. So the power dynamics are coming in place to place, and Madhuri Dixit is brilliant. Like the tears in her eyes when Dev touches her and her hands are shaking. The first time when Dev touches her. I don't know how much of that is Madhuri herself and her intelligence and her experience as an actor versus Bansali. Because Aishwarya said something interesting when she gave an interview when this movie came out. She said this performance was cathartic for her because she was having issues with Salman at the time. And you can see there is a little bit of, she's a bit lost in that performance of that. So there are some good elements to it. Binod Pradhan's cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. It's beautifully lit, but everything else is to me too much. Like, for example, first of all, Bengalis don't wear chicken curry kurtas and walk around. I'm not sure why Shah Rukh Khan is wearing chicken curry kurtas throughout the movie. Okay? And second, Bansali is not a good director of supporting actors. Every time she came, Chotu Ma, I'm like, isko pehle jail mein dalo aur bail bhi mat do. Non-bailable warrant mein put her in jail. And then Kiran Kher shouting, Sumitra, I'm like, and she's gay. I mean, she's shouting. She can just say something to her. She's shouting. And it's just, and the costuming, like, I mean, I know he wanted to make his Pakiza, but this is Devdas. This is in Lucknow. This is not Pakiza. This is not Mughal Azam. There's no Anarkali. And Madhuri Dixit, I don't know whether it's a house or it's a terrace. There is a lake also in her house, and who's changing the water? What was the drainage system at that
Yeah,
time?
I mean, I think one of the notes I was like, they keep on saying that hum inse kafi niche hain, like in the like the Kiran Kher. I'm like, the houses look similar.
Exactly, similar.
I'm
And
like,
they're
they're literally
neighbors.
the same. I'm like, what is Nietzsche in this? Like, I don't get the, like, you need to communicate it at least visually. If you're gonna go for that excess, go for it in, like, show them excessively Nietzsche also, right? Like, don't just make an embroidered house for the
Yeah.
other party also. I'm like, just lessen the embroidery in general, I
And
suppose.
also at the time when this story is based, the Nietzsche Kul, there was a great divide between the caste. They were, I don't know if they invited their neighbors of lower caste to come and be a part of these celebrations. They were very exclusive about whom to include and whom to exclude. He doesn't get all of this, and then he casts Jackie Shroff as Chunni Babu, and he sings and he swaggers, and it's like, and Madhuri is wearing so much jewelry and so much makeup in Calcutta and going to find Dev. Like, where is
I
a
just
bank
want to,
account? Where is a
I
locker?
no, I will say that you're misinterpreting the Nietzsche part. Like that's not what they're talking about. Like it's not. So without giving a short lecture on Bengali, like turn of century society, but they're basically talking about like money is one of the things that they're talking about, but also religious differences because that was like one of the things that Bengali authors were really interested in exploring. So there's like Brahminical society, and then there's the Samaj, the Arya Samaji society. I think they're basically like talk Brahmo Samaj, sorry, and they're sort of like talking about the differences, etc. And there's also this theme of like how Kiran Kher's character is a theater artist
Theater
who
artist, yeah.
her father married, and therefore like that is like something like so there's a lot that this movie doesn't address, like Dhruv was saying, like it could have, but it didn't because it wanted to show the pretty curtains. So that's why everyone's a little bit confused about like what are they saying.
I think
Yeah,
like again, if this film was doing the subtle thing, then all these things what Amrita is saying would play in very well. But
yeah,
because it's doing everything on that grandiose level, when they say Nietzsche and Upper, as a person who's listening to it, it's like that's class system you're talking about, and I'm like they are literally the same class. It looks like it, at least in the way they communicate with each other. I'm like, if you're gonna go the whole hog with your aesthetic, then go for it. I'm like, like you are going for it in any case, but you can make it less pretty when needed. Is my point, and that's fine.
yeah.
Everything
And as an
can't be.
adaptation to Amrita's point, like there's a dialogue where she says, "Tum niche kul ki ho." It doesn't capture what you're explaining. That it's the nuances of like Arya Samaj versus Brahmin, and how that story sort of captured that era's cultural and perhaps societal and economic differences. So
I
yeah,
think the
but that's
SLB
Bansali.
aesthetic, as much as one can praise, it's maybe also there we can blame it for a sort of dumbing down of everything, in the sense that everything needs to be telegraphed. And to the point where you, like, if you don't say it, you can't understand it. And I'm like, you just put a close up, a lot of times the actor will make you understand it. It's one of those things. I'm like, I know his whole shtick is maximalism, but maximalism can become reductive after a point. And I think that's now I don't think any filmmaker now, anyways, possesses the style even he has. So it's essentially bad maximalism doing bad stuff, which I'm just like, fantastic. What a
But
pleasure.
then you start getting the bad derivatives a la Kalank, which is such a
Oof.
aspiring to be SLB type
Yeah.
movie.
The only thing I was thinking was Vikram Aditya Motwane worked extensively on this, and I would say that one of the better period things that has happened recently is Jubilee, or at least I really liked it. But it is working on a subdued melodrama. It's not the sort of
Yeah, because Vikram
Bhansali form
gets
of.
restrained. Yeah, he gets
Yeah,
restrained and
he
control and
does.
discipline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think Bansali does all of this aesthetics because I think he hides behind his shortcomings as a director. He's never made a movie apart from Kamoshi which is shot in contemporary time or which is not shot on a set where their costumes are not involved and art directions are not involved. He's essentially making as derivatives of his own movies, and I don't think he's a great director, like at all. And but that's just my own take. So now we move on to number 9 on the list. Sorry, number 8 on the list. I'm surprised that this movie made it to number 8 on the list. Not because it's a great movie. I'm surprised that this movie has a hold on audiences and fans even today, which is Meera Nair's Monsoon Wedding. I believe the first Indian movie to win the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival. I could be wrong. So, but from my memories, I think that was it. And I'm of course excited. I have a lot of respect for Monsoon Wedding. So I'll start with you, Dhruv. Your thoughts on Monsoon Wedding?
Yeah, I watched it a while back, and I remember liking it quite a bit. In a sort of, again, it's not the sort of movie I would say that is I like. If there is a Meera Nair movie, I would say I would gravitate more towards its the namesake, but that's mainly also because I have great affection for Irfan and Tabu. But yeah, I mean, Monsoon Wedding is a good sort of how to put it. It's not a realistic sort of spin on the big Indian wedding sort of thing, and talking about the uncomfortable truths that hide behind all that. So it does. It's a very well made indie film, if that makes sense, and there's value for that. There's what the standout stuff in it. I still remember is the relationship between Vijay Raj and Tilotama Shom, which is the best part for me, at least the wedding planner and the house
House
uh,
help.
house help, right? I think that's the relationship. I think there is a lot of other stuff in this which then I remember like Highway came much later, and then it became button pushing when that film explored something which is sort of explored in Monsoon Wedding, hinted at, not explored, but all that is there. So yeah, it's got some of those, I think, pitfalls of what you will see in a sort of not, what, when people say that there are certain films that forget the Indian aesthetic altogether. I don't think this suffers from that, but it's a perfectly good film for me. Like, I don't have like a great amount to say about it in that sense, but interesting that it is here actually out of all the stuff that is here, because it feels more I don't know, like anonymous to me at least than a lot of the other films which are here on the list.
Beth, are you a fan?
Oh, I love this film, and I don't know why I didn't put it on my list. I have actually even recently rewatched it. This film has so much power in these little conversations that are not little at all. And one of the moments that really struck me on my most recent rewatch is just watching Shefali Shah's face when she realizes Nasir believes her and is going to take action on this new knowledge that he has, and the power of, hashtag believe women in this film is truly remarkable, and I'm so glad that it exists. And it's um, yeah, just watching all of these experts perform in this film. I have a super soft spot for Lilette Dubé, and I love seeing her in this because she's usually having to do such caricatures, and here she seems like a real person to me, and a real character within the film, right? And I find this film to be utterly entrancing, very much grounded by that romance that Dhruv named. Like it is so charming. This movie it has so much charm in it, but also so many harsh things. And it's, in its own way, it's very masala, isn't it? Even though it doesn't kind of have that vibe,
Yeah.
but in terms of what's actually happening. And I was thinking while Dhruv was speaking about, sometimes in more like big action masala films, it takes several scenes for a woman to be believed also. So like, why does it feel more powerful to me here? And it's because the action taken on it is such a different scale than like, I will go kill 27 bad guys or whatever. There's a I don't want to say reality, because I don't think we don't need to concern ourselves with that, but there is something like recognizable so much in what's happening here, even to me, a non-Indian person from not India, that this is just an incredibly powerful film that says so much, I think.
I agree with that. Chris, you a fan of Meera Nair in general and this movie?
I think this is the only Meera Nair film I've seen, so I can't say if I'm a fan of Meera
Oh,
Nair
okay.
in general. But I did quite like this film. I watched it for the first time earlier this year, and my father recommended it to me, which actually makes a lot of sense because one of the big disagreements that we have is my parents are both Malayalam cinema snobs, as we say, because they grew up on Malayalam cinema, and they look down upon Hindi cinema and Bollywood like immensely, because they are like, these people don't know how to make movies, it's all too much melodrama, and it doesn't talk about the real issues that affects people, and it's all made up and all of that kind of stuff. And whereas I grew up in Bombay watching every weekend's Bollywood release, so my benchmark is the kind of Bollywood melodrama which is what appeals to me. So in that sense, I have a great intellectual appreciation for this film. I think it's very well made. Like Dhruv was saying, there's great elements about it. It talks about difficult topics, but it never crosses over into a personal appreciation for me, because it's just not the approach to this kind of subject matter that I am. It's not that I'm not into, but it's not what I'm looking for here. Like, when I maybe it's a certain genre expectation versus language expectation, whatever that be. If I saw something like this out of Malayalam cinema, you look at very different, but you look at films like Great Indian Kitchen, or the work that Joe Baby does, or other kinds of film, say Jai 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 Hey, and that explore these kinds of dynamics. There, it's an
Yep.
expectation that I vibe with and I really enjoy within the genre conventions of, or the industry conventions of Malayalam cinema. Whereas even though this film isn't, I wouldn't count it as Bollywood. I mean, what I do appreciate about it is it's a great use of Indian English, which is a big problem that I have. Like, I don't think filmmakers know how to use Indian English in films. The other film that I really like is Konkana Sen Sharma's Death in the Gunge. I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's an is there an echo?
Yeah, I think the two tabs open. You have to close one.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. I've just
Yeah,
muted her
so
till she figures it
yeah,
out.
so it's something like Death in the Gunge does a really great job with Indian English, but yeah, here as well. But outside of that, this is not the kind of film that I'm personally looking for. So it's not my thing, but it's very like intellectually and academically, I find it quite interesting to think about, and in the landscape that it came out with, and the appeal it's had particularly to non-Indian audiences as well, I think is very interesting. Yeah.
Amrita, what
Amrita,
are
what are
your
your
thoughts
thoughts
on
on
Monsoon
monsoon
Wedding? I
wedding?
think
I
you've
think
got
you've
two
got two
browsers
browsers
open.
open. That's
Sorry
quite
for the
the
echo.
echo.
We have
It's
cameras
asking
going.
me not. It's asking me to close it, but then the browser is also asking me not to close it because
Okay.
the upload is going on. So
Oh,
I.
the
The
one the
one the
upload is
upload is
going
going
on,
on.
you
You
can
can
close it.
close
Just
it.
close
Just
the
close
one
the
you're
one
on
you're
now.
on now.
Okay, so
Yep.
I should close the one where the upload is happening.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, hold on. There's like two browsers where it's uploading, so let me just. Okay, cool. All right.
As the
As the
character
character
said in
said,
Kabi
in
Khushi
Kabhi
Kabhi
Khushi
Gum,
Kabhi Gum,
technical
technical
problem,
problem,
Mr.
Mr.
Rajan.
Rajan.
Especially when you're like living in India, like this is what's happening. Also, my echo cancellation is now off because I just rejoined and I can't turn it back on. I don't know if you can do that either, so sorry about that. Okay.
So we're
So we're
discussing your
discussing
thoughts
your
on
thoughts on
monsoon.
monsoon.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like this is like another really great choice, but also kind of out of the left field. Like the thing that I've realized as we were going through this list is that I probably had a very narrow focus on the movies that I was selecting for this list because I was looking very specifically at Hindi cinema. And I don't know if I consider Monsoon Wedding to be a Hindi movie necessarily. I kind of think of it as a more international film that's set in India, but I don't know if I consider it to be an indie Hindi movie, if that makes sense. Um, I do remember when this movie came out, and it was delightful. Like I give it like 11 on 10 for nostalgia points. Like it was like I remember the song between the two. It was oh god, I'm just like blanking on everything now because I'm a little bit
Chunari
flustered.
Chunari.
Chunari.
Sorry, no, not Chunari. But Chunari was a huge deal because it was like it was like a, I don't know, like a Z tier song from like a Salman Khan film, and like it was a big success, but it wasn't like that big a success. But then this movie came out and everybody was just doing Chunari again, and it's so wild to see it today because it's Randeep Huda and Ram Kapoor and Lilith Dubey's daughter, whose name I can never remember, and it's also like everything about it, like it's so gentle as a movie. Is this my favorite Mira Nair film? No, like that would be Mississippi Masala, but this is like it really did introduce the world at large to the big Indian wedding. I remember like opening up a copy of Variety or something, and people were writing about this. Like it really made that crossover. I think this was like the first time that I remember a lot of Americans talking about the big Indian wedding. And I remember a lot of people asking me about it and being like, "Oh, is that like how things happen?" And I had to like explain that it's a very Punjabi coded thing. But now, like, look at us. It's like 20 years later, and I feel like that's the kind of wedding that everyone has because it's sort of filtered down because of movies like this. So I get it. I get it.
So the Monsoon Wedding to me is interesting because the thing that I like more, I mean, it just baffles me the cast. You've got Nasruddin Shah, Lilith Dubey, Soni Razdan, Randeep Huda, I think Vasundhara Das was there, and then you had Ram Kapoor when he was slim, then before he became fat and slim again, and this kind of cast you don't sort of get it. But I like this movie. I respect it. I don't know if I love it. To what Chris you were saying, that it was hard for me to connect, but I can appreciate the skill and deployed here in directing, writing, and sort of putting this movie together. So we now move on to a second Vishal Bharadwaj movie on the list at number 7, and this is Heather, which is again an excellent adaptation. I will start with you, Amrita, to talk about Heather.
Yeah, I'm getting a little worried for Omkara, honestly. Like, where is Omkara? But I think when Heather came out, I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. I thought it was fine, and I enjoyed like a lot of bits and pieces of it. But in the years since, it's really grown on me, like Shahid's performance, obviously like Tabu. The music is obviously in any Vishal Bharadwaj movie, like the music is a given. Like, of course, I loved it. But there's that shot of Irfan appearing out of the mist. And I could never forget it. I saw it on the big screen. Like, I can never forget that frame. It is such a beautiful film, and it is also, I think, perhaps the kind of film that can't be made today. Like, I don't think anyone's making a film about Kashmiris feeling angry about Indians being in Kashmir. I don't think like that's ever gonna happen, or about like the Indian security forces disappearing a Kashmiri man. Like that's never gonna happen. And it is. I remember even when it came out, like things were a lot less volatile than they are right now. But I still remember Vishal Bharadwaj facing a lot of heat for this film, and I think in the years since, he's been very quiet about it, and I think Shahid's been very quiet about it, and I think everybody is sort of like, let's not remember anything. There's no like Haider anniversary being celebrated by Shahid Kapoor fans on Twitter. There's no like, oh my God, have you seen this brave film made by Vishal Bharadwaj about Kashmir? Everything's like very quiet as kept about this film. So I'm really surprised to see that Heather made it to the list and it made it this far up. But yeah, I'm a little concerned for Omkara, you guys. I'm a little concerned.
Well, I can say you don't need to be, but that's it. I will leave it at that. I agree with you, Amrita. This is a deeply political. This is probably his most political film. Bharadwaj's most political and explicitly political film. All his other movies, the politics are subverted. Here, he's quite explicit with that, and I don't think we can ever get. Who knows? But I'm an optimist eternally, so I'm hoping things will turn around. It's been 5 years, nothing's happened, but things can happen, change. Cris, since you're the academic here on the panel from a lens of academia, what's your take on Heather?
I feel the most underqualified to talk about it from that perspective, particularly. Especially when you think about its politics, because it has been disagreed on a lot, and this is not just a political side issue. Even people who are more on the progressive side, or people who are, everybody has had some kind of a reaction to this film, and part of me appreciates the fact that you could have made a film about 10 years ago where people could have such a diverse set of reactions, which is not something you're going to get in today's landscape at all. I just think Heather is such an interesting film to me, because I was a very, very big Shahid Kapoor fan growing up. And I couldn't watch. I was quite young when this film came out, so I couldn't watch it when it released. I watched it, I think, a year or two back, and I find it so sad, because I think it's after this that his career takes a severe downturn, and it leads to stuff like Batti Gul Meter Chalu, and then you land up to something like Kabir Singh, which is because after the high that he had in the 2000s as this chocolate boy, you had your Jab We Mets and all of that, and you get I think a fantastic performance by him in this film. And then so it's interesting, because it's I think Vishal Bharadwaj is writing very refined, and obviously all of his films, especially with Maqbool, Omkara and Heather, sort of bringing Shakespeare to an Indian milieu. But I think here he's it's the bravest, but I think that commitment also pays off because it is so entrenched in that space, and he navigates it simultaneously very delicately, but also without being wishy-washy about it, which is very impressive. I also think it's just fantastically well made. Like, I can never forget Bismil. I think Bismil is such a fantastically picturized song. It's such a great song. It's portrayed so wonderfully, and the reactions that you get out of Tabu and KK Menon in in that sequence, it's wonderful. Tabu. She's just absolutely incredible, and that scene where him and Shahid meet up towards the end at the ruins of their home is absolutely an unforgettable sequence to me. So it's again lots to appreciate from a filmmaking perspective, lots to admire about it. It's politically difficult, which is I think a very good thing, and that's the sort of like space where I come into it. It's like it's such a great representation of all of what Bharadwaj is capable of doing if he's given the resources and the political climate in which he can say and do these things, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's interesting. After Heather, he somehow has not made a movie to that level. And correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think that's the like these were peak movies of his, and then he's made good movies, but they haven't sort of matched. Like Rangoon is a good movie, but it is not a Heather to that extent. Dhruv,
No, I mean,
your
you
take?
can even
Yeah,
compare
sorry.
it to something like Khufia as well, right? Because Khufia
Yeah.
also goes for the geopolitical angle, but it's entirely restrained, right? It's about
Yeah.
espionage, it's about the behind the scenes stuff. It completely subverts the bombast and goes for the procedural. I love Khufia. I think it's an excellently well made film, but it is such a. I think it's a great contrast between these two films where Bharadwaj takes his political, and again, this is 2014, so you can see the transition
Yeah.
that happens, with time.
Yeah,
No, I agree.
whatever. I mean, I was about to say, I was only about to interrupt to say that Chris loves Khufia. I know that. I mean, I like Khufia. I think it falls off a cliff in the last 30 minutes, but that's a different scenario altogether. But no, Heather is arguably, I would still think Omkara is my favorite of Bharadwaj's work, but Heather is a close second, I would say. I just find this film insanely haunting, and that's not a word I use with many Hindi films in general. It's haunting in the sense that it feels, firstly, the way the Kashmir is captured, it does feel absolutely, it's beautiful, of course, but the desolateness of that place in the film and the background score, more than the score even, like the songs, has this mournful sort of feeling to it that it's like they are living in a place which has been, it's beyond the apocalypse even, like it's like, it has taken place and now what is left are the ruins essentially. And the whole film takes place in this sort of funereal, or how you pronounce it, like that atmosphere. And the whole drama that happens is, I think, like now, because I've thought about it so much, I've watched it about 4 or 5 times, which is probably not a healthy thing to do for something like Heather. But and again, what Chris was saying about, and you guys were saying about the difficult politics is something I very much appreciate. I'm like, please allow that discussion to happen. But I think more than that, I'm just the human drama of it is very much, a representational mode in many ways of Tabu's character being the Kashmir essentially between those two forces of, Shahid and KK Menon, and then deciding essentially to, sacrifice herself in the sense of she's not, again, but the whole, it's very complicated in the character dynamics, of course, being transplanted onto the politics, but the push and pull between the son and the mother in that film is one of the most uncomfortably, it is uncomfortable, but it's also so tender and romantic in a weird way that it's both the actors play it absolutely perfectly. And every time Tabu says Jana in that film is like a dagger to the heart, almost, to me at least. It's like the way she enunciates it, it's like the affection she has for him is there, despite the affection she doesn't have for his father. So it's that really incredible amount of tension that's there throughout that film, and the more it builds, I think again it has one of those, again towards the end, I think it has those slipping moments where it needs to connect a lot of the dots together, because a lot of plot points are falling in place, but the climax is terrific. KK Menon screams, I still remember, as Shahid Kapoor walks uh, away from his limbless body. It's a gory film in a sense, but in like it hurts your. It's not like gory in a. It shows you the gore sense, but sort of it's bruised. It's a bruised film, and it is unafraid to flaunt almost those bruises. And I respect it for being this, chilling in that sense. So yeah, I have a huge admiration for it. And the tragedy, I guess, is that I saw that it is playing on Z5 on a carousel next to the Kashmir Files. So that's where we are at.
That's where we
Yeah.
Interesting you said about that, because I think about the mother-son dynamic, because Tabu in an interview said the brief she got from Vishal was that he wants Tabu and Shahid to not look like mother and son but like lovers, and that those two actors, specifically Tabu, got that brief. Like Shahid looks a little bit clueless still, but she got it and she gives it. So it's and again, it's the fidelity to the original text of
Yeah.
Shakespeare, and how these characters get deranged at the end. They are consumed by their own sense of insecurities and power, and how that he's just so good at transposing these emotions, and the politics aside. But I agree with you, Chris. I think the politics, depending on because this is such a complicated, complex issue that people will come to it from different prisms. But from a Shakespearean point of view, it has a certain that haunting, looming, uncertain and deranged aspects to it, which he sort of gets. Beth, your thoughts on Heather?
I don't have too much to add, but I've just been discussing with a couple of friends recently, like, what is art? I work in a museum, so maybe that's why. But this everything that we're saying, like, this is what art is, right? This is what art should do. This is a power art has that other things don't. And this is such an incredibly powerful film, even for someone who's not particularly well versed in, Kashmiri politics and history and things like that. It's just obviously the source material is fantastic, but so is this adaptation. I have, not to say perfect no notes, but honestly, perfect no notes.
No, but about the adaptation, I think the thing that I find the funniest and the most iconic is turning Rosencrantz and Guildenstern into Salman and Salman is possibly the most iconic thing Vishal Bharadwaj has done.
Well, I agree on that. Now, Amrita, I'm going to start with you for our number 6 movie, Om Shanti Om, because I know you love it.
I do. Um, I mean, there's nothing that I can talk about this movie that hasn't been said again. I mean, like, it just saw a re-release just a few weeks ago, and it was a blockbuster all over again. Like, everybody went and saw it. Now, obviously, audience appreciation is not something that should be used as a sole measure of a movie's, worth or, but I think when we are talking about a movie that like embodies Bollywood, and this movie is such a love letter. I mean, I'm not saying anything new that 100 million other people haven't said about this movie already, but it really truly is a love letter to the lore of Bollywood, as well as the syntax of Bollywood. So when we were talking earlier about the melodrama and the emotional manipulation and everything, I mean, this movie is full of it. Like, there is not one subtle moment in this film. There is not even a subtle moment in like the costume, in the locations, in the background music. Even the camera angles are like epic, everything is just like sweeping through. It is very much in and of itself, devoted to this particular syntax of movie making. And I respect the hell out of it for it. um, because it's also about the movies. It's about the craziness um, of being drawn to an art form, but also understanding that the stars that you see in your eyes are not particularly about the art itself, but of the commerce, because Om doesn't think of like being like the greatest actor. His dreams are more materialistic. He wants to win that award. He wants to be the big star that comes up in the big fancy car. These are, but then you also connect with him as a human being, because the thing that he gives everything up for is this woman who doesn't even love him. She's just like an idea, who like she thinks of him as like an entertaining sort of acquaintance. She's given him like 5 minutes of her time, and she thinks he's kind of weird but also funny, and she treats him like that. Like her entire internal energy is based on somebody else. But this is like the grand tradition of ek tarfa pyar, but like in a good way, in a wholesome way, rather than the dhanush way that we are seeing right now. And the music is like fabulous. Like there's just nothing that I can complain about in terms of the music. The way that Farah uses all these little stories from across Bollywood's history, even the ones, I mean, they're like the more obvious ones, like Nargis getting saved from the fire by Sunil Dutt, but there's also like little things that they're so industry specific, like the one where Shah Rukh is playing as the second Om. He's playing this character who is disabled, and he's he's on the wheelchair, and he's like, no, I can do this better, and he's just like spitting out the marigolds during the thing. And this was right after like Black had come out, right, a couple of years ago. And I mean, it was just like so many little things, like there's the stand-in character for Suraj Barjatya, who's like sitting there taking notes, and it's like, friendship mein no sorry, no thank you. Like it's all like these little things that are just perfect, and only Farah and Shah Rukh could have made this film.
Well, I agree. I think for me, the Suraj Bharjatiya reference was the most funniest, and like all of this, like of course there's Cars, there's Naseeb, there is that Jhumar, which was like in these old movie, black and white movies like Mahal and everything, and even in the songs that she sort of gives references to everything from Goldie Hawn's movies to Nasser Hussain movies, and there's this. It's a very well referenced movie for sure, and you can see that she was definitely very influenced by Manmohan Desai and Vijay Anand style of filmmaking. And Beth, you're an expert on Manmohan Desai's brand of cinema, so I'll hand it over to you. I mean, Amrita is as well, but you're
Yeah,
you
that's
have
our
a PhD as well, isn't it?
You're playing our tune. This is not my, Mehuna is my preferred Farah, but I agree with what Amrita is saying, and I'm sure what the others will probably talk about as well. And this is just, it's a funny film, and it's nice to see something so funny in this chunk of the list. We've been, to go from Haidar to do this is wild in a way, but also in some ways not, right? So this is one of those great examples of Indian cinema contains multitudes, even if we're just going to do Hindi mainstream, right? It contains multitudes in such a joyful, fascinating, and compelling way. So this is such a master work. Like this is an expert person doing a thing for which she is very well suited, and I will probably never see anything as good from her again.
Yeah, I mean that's another conversation altogether, like where she's gone from here. But one of the interesting things is that Farah Khan was meant to be a director, never really a choreographer. Because even in the songs, if you look at a song, the songs that she's choreographed, they look directed. They don't look choreographed. Like because of the camera angles and stuff, the camera is going through. She's not technically like a Saroj Khan giving them good hook steps and stuff like that. She's just doing something, like directing it like a music video. So this movie is like an extended music video of sorts in a good way. Dhruv, do you like Om Shanti Om?
Of course, I like Om Shanti Om. Come on, like the who again? I am very much the who doesn't like Om Shanti Om. Like like, I
No,
know
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
why
people
I
don't.
find these people. I don't know
I,
what's wrong.
I know a lot of people don't. I know some of them, which is understandable. It's very much Bollywood pro max excess, whatever like adjective you want to slap onto it. But yeah, I mean, again, I've written a paper on this, like in college. So or I've written about it 2-3 times also. So I've talked about it plenty. To me, I always say some of my favorite movies are basically Vertigo riffs, Alfred Hitchcock Vertigo riffs. This is a Vertigo riff, in many cases, a positive one, where the man isn't. Well, one man is the villain, but not the other
Villain,
one.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's. The excess. So I think what Chris was saying, right? Like this whole before about the problems with Devdas and Bhansali about the whole excess, not having irony or camp. This is like that to the hilt, right? It is excessive. It is unashamedly so, and it hits. I think almost all beats really well. I was rewatching it just 3-4 days back. I had planned. My parents were rewatching it. I just sat down with them to rewatch it. Like, and I was like, I'll go back in 5 minutes, or whatever. I had some other work to do. I just sat and watched like till like 75% of it was done, and I was just like, this is just such a easy watch, of course, but like it's also just I don't need to be in on the references to enjoy all of them is also the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
other thing. Because I know that a lot of the references she makes, I'm living them through her nostalgia. I don't have nostalgia for them. And that's the tricky thing to do because it's not an in joke. It's not a thing where I, as a slight outsider, can't get it. With her, I do get them. And I would say that I mean, I wouldn't say that Tismar Khan is her film. It's is much more of a Shirish Kundar film. Uh, I have also, we did an episode recently on Farah Khan, so I rewatched because I wanted to hurt myself. Happy New Year. And that was a genuine shock to my system in the sense that I was like, I can't believe the woman who made Om Shanti Om has made Happy New Year. In the sense that I can't believe that her filmmaking, which is so committed to the excess, like Main Agar Kahun and Ajab Si, I think are some of the most gorgeous song sequences we've had recently. Like in the way they use the songs to communicate the emotion a character is feeling. And I just saw Happy New Year, and I was just like, this is. I don't know how to defend her. Like I don't know. Like, I'm like, what happened? Like honestly, what went on? Like what did you guys do in Dubai? Like did you find some stuff again? That's my main question sometimes. Like I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like to make this sort of movie, it's kind of incompetent. And this is like the extreme opposite of that to me. Like this is like her operating in the best possible, using the filmy connections and resources she has to do the best thing she can do in that sense. And as I think Amrita said, it's a love letter. I think beneath the love letter, there is a lot of dark stuff in this, which is there beneath it. It's like, covered over by the gloss and the divangi and everything. I still think it's the biggest tragedy of the film is that Om Kapoor never actually becomes Om Prakash Makhija doesn't become a star. That is the film's
Yeah.
biggest tragedy. No amount of evocation of his spirit holding the Filmfare Award will do justice to that. The whole idea that he dies is a big thing. Like he has to be reborn as as the son of someone in the industry to become a star. I think that's incredibly tragic. I don't know if she intended to be that tragic in that sense, but I think beneath it, there's a lot of ugly stuff going on. And I think the film is good enough to let that ugliness at least stay and not always paper over it. So yeah, lots of great stuff in Om Shanti Om.
Look, at
And
least it reveals to us that she was always pro nepotism. So,
yeah, well, that's
ironically.
yeah.
No, but I get you. I get your. I agree with you. I think it's a tragedy that, yeah, even the Shanti character who's dead, she's come and she's just a lookalike. Like, there's no. there's no connecting thread or tissue between the two. But the jokes really hit hard. But like I remember when in this movie they're showing Shah Rukh Khan is nominated for the Om Kapoor character's 4 Filmfare Awards. And every time he comes with a sweater and he just stands like this, it's like just saying he's doing Mohabbat. Like she's just making spoof of Shah Rukh,
Yeah.
and he's in the joke. You know, that's a different kind of a cool.
Everyone's in on the joke,
In
which is
the- in
also
on
the
it,
other
yeah.
great thing. Like, I mean, I love the Akshay Kumar cameo. I think that's
Yeah.
gold. So, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, you can talk to the Farah Khan scholar now, because Chris is that.
Okay, Chris, hit us with your take.
Yeah, no, I mean, as opposed to with Heather, where I was feeling underqualified, I feel perfectly qualified to talk here because not only do I have a paper en route for publication, I'm also writing my dissertation on Farah Khan's work. So this is kind of my bread and butter, and I think everything that I had to say has been covered pretty like extensively by these three. So I'm going to take the approach that I'm taking, sort of introduce your listeners to an interesting academic concept that might interest them, which is camp. So I'm analyzing Farah Khan and Shirish Kundar's work as an exemplary of camp as an aesthetic sensibility, and particularly as a queer sensibility in the Indian or Hindi cinematic landscape. And essentially, camp is an aesthetic sensibility which is defined by excess, by theatricality, by essentially a lack of believability. Like it's so much that you're like, it's too much, but you still buy into it. And it's I think very, very wonderfully, like I always say, so the text that is that sort of defines this aesthetic to a large extent is a piece by this public intellectual called Susan Sontag called Notes on Camp, very, very famous piece of work. And you can literally turn Notes on Camp into a checklist and watch Om Shanti, like a bingo card, and watch Om Shanti Om, and you will get you'll get a full house by the time you finish the film. It's that to the T when it comes to this sort of a sensibility. And it comes through in such wonderful, moments, be that, one thing Sontag talks about is this really interesting blending of masculine and feminine ideals, and what is generally considered masculine is feminized or vice versa. And you see something that in like the disco, which is a male item number, you get it framed as an item number, and the focus is on a very overt the very overt sexuality of Shah Rukh, which is put on display for the audience to sort of savor in a way that you would generally do for female characters or female actors.
Yeah.
Generally. And it comes out in and so much of its references have become part of, this doesn't happen with Bollywood. This happens a ton in Malayalam cinema, where dialogues become a thing that you can just say, or become references that you use in your day-to-day life. Like when Dhruv was describing the acting in Devdas, my brain went, "Wah kya acting kar raha hai, wah kya acting kar raha hai," right? So it's that, I think it's such a wonderfully made film that's so distinct in what it does. Like there's definitely inspiration, like you can say if you watch Manmohan Desai's work, it definitely comes from that ethos, but Farah does something so distinct with it and creates such a wonderful like sense of humor for herself. Because I also feel like Bollywood is not good at comedies. This is a hill I will die on. Contemporary Bollywood doesn't know how to make comedies. Most of their popular comedies are Malayalam movie remakes, be that Hera Fairy or Bhagam Bhag or whatever. But where something like Tismar Khan and Om Shanti Om takes Hindi cinema and takes something that is very distinctly Bollywood and turns it into a very interesting sense of humor. And it's just a great melodrama. It's a great romantic film. It's got great music. The Jhumar, again, a piece of trivia from my end, is actually inspired directly from The Phantom of the Opera, because Farah actually worked with Andrew Lloyd Webber on Bombay Dreams while she was writing this film, when she got the idea for the film. So if you actually see the set for Dastai Om Shanti Om, or the big set of the film, it's directly lifted from Joel Schumacher's adaptation of Phantom on screen. It's the exact same set. And the humor also of it coming down and all of that is very much inspired from Phantom. So I think she crafts such a wonderful film around these great performances. I think Shah Rukh and Shreyas Talpade and Kiran Kher have such a wonderful dynamic between them. Arjun Rampal is the perfect villain for this kind of this thing, and it functions on that so many layers and so much joy that, like as Dhruv was saying, you don't need to know the references, and actually it's a great start and end point, I feel like, to your cinephilia, because again, I watched it when I was getting into Bollywood films. I was very young when the film came out, but the more I've learned about Hindi cinema, the more I'm able to appreciate the film because I see the references. But even if I didn't get them, there's enough of her joy in it that it translates anyways. So it's I can go on about this. I wrote a 6,000 word piece about it not only a couple of months ago, so like I can go on about it forever, but this is some of my many
To be
many
fair,
thoughts
when
on
I
the
was
film.
learning, I took a course in Indian cinemas, and this was, I have to say, very much used. They were like, they should use it as an introduction for anyone who's not familiar with Bollywood, to get them a flavor of what all can be there in a Bollywood film. So, yeah.
Well, funny enough, like it is a movie that's come up quite often because over at Khandann, like we often ask people who come on like what they would recommend and like what was their entry point to Bollywood. And you would be surprised at the number of people who've said like Om Shanti Om, because as people who watch a lot of Bollywood, we kind of think of it as like, oh, like this is too referential. There's like too much happening. Like, I don't know if that's going to happen. And a lot of people are just like, no, we just loved it. Like, it worked perfectly fine for us on like one level. And then once we got really into it, we just came back to it. And then we got all the references.
Cris, I wish you had been around in the heyday of Indian cinema blogs, because we talked about all these things like camp and all this. Like, this discussion's been going on for a really, really long time. I assume in the scholarly literature as well, which I do delve into from time to time. But it's just such a camp masterpiece.
I'm really looking forward to reading your piece, Cris. You know, I think one of the things that I grapple with camp is I can see its appeal to, especially like to the LGBTQI community, because obviously they're more cooler and more savvier, so they get and appreciate camp. But a lot of people don't completely get it, and if they get it, they're not able to appreciate it for what it is. So you know, it's a very fascinating, and it's the way it sort of transcends into cinema, and the use and interpreted in cinema is again like Pedro Almodovar does it in his own way, Farah Khan does it in her own way, you know, Karan Johar does it in his own way, so Sonam Kapoor does it in her own way. So there are different iterations of it, but it's just accessibility it really depends on the audience, I guess, and their appreciation for it. Yeah.
No, it's also
So
like a part of my thesis has also been trying to make sense of like the, sorry to use a very technical term, Dhruv will get mad at me if this was Queen is Dead, but the epistemology or the way that the knowledge of camp itself is constructed, right? Because a lot of earlier theorists were that, no, this is a queer thing that queer people make and that queer people will get. But then how do you talk about something like Om Shanti Om, right? Like, how do you talk about a filmmaker who you don't know if they're queer, or you don't know where they
yeah.
come from, but they clearly have made a queer work of art? So part of that process has also been to make it less sort of essential, but also to understand what does queerness mean then outside of just being LGBT, right? It's about a certain experience of marginalization, which you can attribute to someone like Farah without essentializing her as well. But it is very interesting, you know, you make to imagine 2004 where I still think it was quite tricky to think of a film like Mehuna, which is, you've got a Ramayana allegory with Shah Rukh Khan playing Ram and the Zayed Khan playing Lakshman and her directing the film. It's a tricky thing even especially to think about now, but what those identities and what that experience means and how it translates. So it's very interesting, yeah, that it's a very, if you get it, you really get it, but if you don't, it can be absolutely repellent to you. So that's been also part of what I'm trying to grapple with in the work that I'm doing, yeah.
Oh no, I'm really looking forward to reading it. Please let us know when it's ready. Just one thing on Om Shanti Om, I want to say is that I love Farah Khan casting Bindu, because in Mehuna, every time Bindu comes, there's this background music goes Charti Jawani Dekho Hai Hai, and Bindu's just walking. And here also, as Bindu comes, you know, mere hoto se pilai to hangama ho gaya, and then she goes, baby, baby, you know, so baby ko ye chahiye, and I just love seeing Bindu, even if she's there for 2 scenes. Like, she really gives it's the comedic genius, and like Farah really knows how to kind of cast and use
I
her.
mean, bring her in. Happy New Year. We'll maybe have like one moment then, which is bearable. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know Dhruv's favorite moment with Bindu and Om Shanti Om, and I have to bring that up because I love it as well.
Oh
It's
yeah.
when this one they're tricking Arjun Rampal into sort of going to Dolly's change room to it's green
Yeah.
room to see Deepika, and sort of he chases Bindu down when he says this thing, and sort of they're waiting outside, and he's talking to her, and Arjun Rampal sort of shocks and comes out, and Bindu goes, मैंने बोला था बेबी से मेकअप मत उतारना. Oh, it's so wonderful.
Well, it's sort of genius. All right, so we'll just do a recap of the list. We've sort of covered it, guys. Thank you. So at number 6, we've got Om Shanti Om. Number 7, Heather. Number 8, Monsoon Wedding. Number 9, Devdas. Number 10, Anthabdun. Number 11, Paheli. 12, Veer Zara. 13, Maqbool. And 14, Company. So net, I think it's not bad. I know we had some disagreements on some picks, but we had consensus on some others. So, I think 50-50, everyone seems reasonably okay with the list, at least from the facial expressions, except for Cris. Now, so it's a tradition on this show, we do a quick rapid fire. So because we've got 4 people, I'm not going to go over 10 questions. I'm just going to ask 3 questions to each other. Sorry, not to each other, to all 3 of you. And then I just want to take everyone's take on, just think about from this list only, which one do you think is the best directed one? Which is the best movie performance? It could be male or female. And any technical achievement you want to give a shout out to: music, art direction, cinematography, choreography, costume, whatever it may be. But it has to come from this list only. So while you're all thinking about that, I'll start with the rapid fire question. Beth, I'll start with you. So, are you ready for your 3 rapid fire questions? You're on mute. Sorry.
Very sorry. Yes, I believe I'm ready.
Okay. Now, if you had to watch one movie and only one movie for the rest of your life, and you have to pick from these 2 movies, which one would you pick?
Oh, okay.
Animal or Kabir Singh?
I've seen neither. I guess Kabir Singh because my impression is it's less heinous, but I don't know. But sure.
Okay. If you had to recast Devdas today with contemporary actors, whom would you cast?
Ranveer Singh is Devdas. I think I want to go with someone like, I don't know, someone really limp for Paro. I don't know, like Ananya Pandey or somebody like that, maybe. And then, oh God, who would I do? This is not rapid. I try not to think about Devdas. Let's put in Deepika. Sure, why not?
Why not? Okay. Now, just rate the following directors according to your preferences from 1 to 5. Sanjay Leela Bansali, Zoya Akhtar, Karan Johar, Vishal Bharadwaj, or Sriram Raghavan from 1 to 5.
Tell me them again. SLB, Kejo.
Zoya, Vishal, and Sriram Raghavan.
Oh, okay. So I think 1 is Sriram. I think 2 is Vishal, 3 Zoya, 4 Kejo, 5 SLB.
Awesome. All right. Cris, we'll go to you next.
Okay.
So if you're on a flight with 2 other people on a private jet and you're going to a holiday. I mean, I don't know why you go on a holiday with these 2 people, but this is hypothetical. So one is Sandeep Reddy Vanga, and the other one is Sanjay Leela Bansali. Now the flight is about to crash, and you've got only 1 parachute, and you can only save 1 from these 2. Whom would you save?
Sanjay Leela Bansali.
Okay, not Vanga.
You're telling the person who wrote an entire paper on how much I dislike animal if I would save Sandeep Reddy Vanga.
Okay, from Dola Re Dola, who's your preferred dancer, Aishwarya or Madhuri?
Madhuri.
Okay. If you had to recast K3G today, who are the stars you would pick?
Oh, it has to be Shah Rukh because there's literally no one else that could be Shah Rukh. I just think make a older version of K3G and cast the same people because there's just nobody in the younger actor.
Then how
Unless you
old
were
is
making a
Amitabh
completely-
Bachchan then?
His same age. I would be 50. So you can put Shah Rukh and Kajol both 50s there. You can put Hrithik and Kareena as those. But who will
Kareena.
be Hrithik and Kareena?
I don't think I would say just keep I would remake the film as like a aged up piece of the same thing. I just don't
As
think
in a
there's
sibling
like,
rivalry, I think.
Huh. I just don't think there is any actor I can think of off the top of my head who could have the charisma that Shah Rukh needs. Or because when you think of Hrithik alternative cast, you think Tiger Shroff, and I can't put Tiger Shroff in K3G. I can't put Tiger Shroff anywhere. So this is a question I politely refuse to answer. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. All right, Dhruv will come to you next. Who's a better actor, Ranveer Singh or Ranbir Kapoor?
Ranbir Kapoor.
Do you think Ranbir Kapoor is better? Okay, Deepika or Alia, better actor?
Alia.
Okay, kill, marry, or hook up from these three. So it is Kriti Sanan, Kareena Kapoor, or Kiara Advani.
Kill Kiara.
Bichari Kiara. Okay.
Kill. Kya tha, sorry? Marry.
Kareena?
Oh, I don't like any of them. Sorry. Marry. Who's the first one?
So
Sorry.
Kiara, Kriti, and
Yeah,
Kareena.
marry Kriti and hook up with Kareena then. Yes. But I don't like any of them. That's so sad.
But that's the whole point. Okay, fine. We'll give you another one just because Madhuri, Sridevi, Juhi. Kill, marry, hook up.
Marry Juhi 100%. I've not seen enough of Sridevi, so I don't know. Now this is tough. Sorry. Marry all three.
Great. This is not Rama. This is not Mahabharata.
I mean, you're giving me tough options, and then the first one. Anyways, fine.
That's the whole
I
How
tried.
about in honor of the recently departed Dharmendra, marry them both.
Yeah.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Amrita will come from you. Come to you. Sorry. Geet from Jab We Met or Pooh from K3G. Your favorite character.
Geet, 100%.
Okay. Who do you think is the best actor, Ranveer Singh or Ranbir Kapoor?
We actually did an entire video about it. Like it hasn't come out yet, but Ranbir won.
Oh, I'm the only one who thinks Ranveer is better than Ranveer.
It was a tough fight. Like we really went several rounds of it, and it was the result was a little bit surprising to us because I thought going in that Ranveer was gonna win it, but then by the end of our video we were just no, we have to give it to Ranveer.
Okay. Fair enough. If you had to recast these guys today, whom would you cast?
Who do I hate enough? I think maybe Ranveer.
And the girls?
Oh, I didn't know that we were doing Paru and Chandramukhi as well. For Paru, I genuinely I'm trying to think of all the women who've played Paru, and I don't know anybody who can embody that level of naivety, but also the sort of dog-like devotion that Paro embodies. When I think of Suchitra Sen, or when I think of Aishwarya Rai, those are very specific kinds of performances. So I don't know anybody in modern day Bollywood who can do that. Probably Alia, will be the closest that I can think of, I guess. And then for Chandramukhi, I think Cris made Deepika, sure. Was it Cris or was it Beth? I can't remember. Beth was the one. Yeah, Deepika,
I
sure.
like Tabu actually.
I think Tabu would eat that role up to a point where like it would like completely destroy
It would
any
become
kind.
the Chandramukhi movie, not the
Yeah.
Devdas movie.
Like it wouldn't be the Devdas movie. Like it needs everything needs to be balanced, and I don't think because Tabu already has a great Tawaif performance, right? Like she has that movie that she did with Shahid's brother, and she was so great in it. Her performance was like the best thing about that series, and
A Suitable Boy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
The first movie, Jeet, not the first, but one of her initial movies, she was Tawaf in Jeet.
oh yeah, she was. Well, we won't look at that and we won't think about it. All right, we'll just focus on this century, and yeah. So that would be my choice.
Awesome. All right. I'm just going to mute you for a second. Yeah. And now we'll just sort of quickly do our bits. So I'll just go just so that for ease. So in terms of the best directed movie from this lot, I would say it is Sriram Raghavan, Andhadhun. Best performance, movie performance. For me, it's Madhuri in Devdas. And technically, in terms of like the technicality of it, like I would say best cinematography would be Heather, but I have to apologize if I forgot the name of the cinematographer.
Pankaj Kumar.
Thank you, Pankaj Kumar, cinematography in Heather. So Dhruv, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, because I was looking at his name when I was in the process of selecting my best technicality. So Pankaj Kumar for Heather. I would say best director Farah Khan for Om Shanti Om, and best performance. Take your pick of taboos, whichever ones you want. Maqbool, Heather, Andhadhun, all three.
All three.
Yeah.
Beth?
Yeah, also Taboo for me, I'm gonna name Makbul, I think. I'm also giving that Best Director for Bhardwaj. And then for cinematography, I'd like to do Ravi Chandran for Paheli.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Amrita?
My list is exactly the same as Dhruv's. Farah Khan, Best Director. Cinematographer is like the one from Heather, and I cannot possibly choose between the taboos, like or like how Asim calls her tabo. The taboos I cannot choose because that would be a taboo.
That would be a taboo. Well said. Cris, we'll end with you.
Very similar. Director Farah Khan for Om Shanti Om. Performance Tabu Tabu Tabu. All three, yes. And I think for the technical, I would say writing for both Om Shanti Om and Heather. I think they're both excellently well written films.
So we all know who voted for Om Shanti Om on this list. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just realized the 3 hours. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You've all been very generous and very gracious and magnanimous with your time for this episode and for this list. I immensely appreciate it. I will release this episode next week. Both the episodes, the top 5 and this one and the final list and individual list, all of them will be published. Where, I don't know how, I don't know, but we'll get it done. So thank you very much. And I really appreciate you coming here. And I would love for each and every one of you to come back on this podcast at some point and keep doing the great work. I listen to all of you all, so I enjoy listening to every one of you and always looking forward to your takes on this. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vex. Nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank
Nice to meet you.
Bye,
Nice to meet
Betty.
you.
Bye.